Welcome to Fiction no Jutsu. Today we are moving into an wildest what if. What if Naruto have sealed Legacy Part 2? Make sure to subscribe for awesome stories like this. Chapter 5. Mask. 1 year and 4 months later, at the Hyuga Manor, Hinata, age 12, was on her hands and knees with Hanabi, age 7, standing before her. Standing to the side by the wall were Hayashi and Ko. The Hyuga clan leader shook his head with his eyes closed with feelings of disappointment at Hinata's repeated defeat and failure to topple Hanabi in a one-on-one spar, again. That's enough for the day, Hayashi said as he turned and left the dojo, leaving his 2 daughters and Ko behind. Hinata was looking down at the floor with Hanabi walking toward her. The younger of the 2 stopped and looked down at Hinata. "Nei-san," Hanabi said, "your performance today was far less than what I expected out of our clan heiress. You were even slower and sluggish than before. It's shameful that even I could beat you in a match. Niji, age 13, would simply crush you." Saying nothing further, Hanabi left the dojo and followed after her father. Ko went over to console Hinata. "Don't let what they said get to you, Hinata-sama." Ko comforted. "I know you have potential to do better and improve." "How can I?" Hinata cried teary-eyed. "I just don't have the ability to use our clan's jukin. No one in our clan learned the jukin style overnight, Hinata-sama." Ko said, "It'll just require more time and effort for you to adjust to our clan fighting style. I'm confident that you'll become better in time." "Do you?" Hinata sniffled. "Really believe that?" "I do, Hinata-sama," Ko said. A knock came from the door. "Hinata-chan," a voice called from behind the door. "Are you in there?" "Naruto-kun, age 12," Hinata said with her mood gradually changing from a sad one to a happier one. It always amazed Ko how Naruto's presence always brought a smile to Hinata's face regardless of whatever mood she was in. "I was told by Hanabi that you were in the dojo," Naruto said. "Are you able to come and hang out with me today?" "Hinata-sama will have to clean herself up first," Ko suggested. "You'll have to wait until then." "Not a problem," Naruto said from outside. "I'll meet you in the front when you're done, Hinata-chan." Turning to the heiress, Ko said, "You could use a break, Hinata-sama. Go and get yourself cleaned up. Your friend is waiting for you." Smiling, Hinata got up and hurried out of the dojo to get herself cleaned and ready to go. Meanwhile, Naruto was waiting patiently for Hinata's arrival outside the house. After another 15 minutes, Hinata appeared through the door. "Hinata-chan," Naruto smiled brightly. "You made it. For a moment there I thought I'd have to come and retrieve you personally." Hinata giggled. "Not that I'd mind you coming looking for me, but I don't think the others would approve of that." "Like that would stop me," Naruto remarked. "No," Hinata giggled. "Most likely not." Taking hold of her hand, Naruto led Hinata away. Though Naruto held Hinata's hands many times before, it was amazing that she would blush every time his hand entwined with hers. Once outside the Hyuga Manor and out of hearing and seeing range, Hinata relaxed more and dropped her mask. Meanwhile, at the Hyuga Manor, Hayashi was sitting in his private study sipping his cup of tea. He sighed to himself as he thought about how poorly Hinata did in her spar session with Hanabi. "I know Hinata can do better," Hayashi thought to himself, "but so much of her mother's kind and gentle spirit lives within her. As much as I don't want to believe this, but some of that gentleness is proving to be a real hindrance to Hinata's development." A knock soon came from the front of his private study. "Yes," Hayashi asked. "May I come in, Hayashi-sama?" Ko requested. "You may," Hayashi granted. Ko entered Hayashi's study and slid the door close behind him. "Is there something you need?" Hayashi asked as he looked up at the cadet branch member. Ko went over to Hayashi and knelt down on mat in front of the Hayashi's table. "If I may speak freely, Hayashi-sama," Ko requested, "I wish to discuss Hinata-sama's progress in our clan's jukin." Hayashi sighed to himself as he set his cup of tea down of the polished wooden table. "This isn't the first time you approached me about my elder daughter's failure to quickly learn our clan's prized jutsus," Hayashi pointed out, "and I'm very well aware of Hinata's current handicap." "Her handicap," Ko repeated in a confused tone. "What handicap is this?" Hayashi paused for a minute and spoke again. I hate to have to say this. I believe my daughter's handicap stems from her inheriting her mother's gentle characteristics. From what I've observed, her behavior is very much like my late wife's, who herself didn't manifest much of the stern Hyuga mannerism. Hinata's kind spirit is the factor that's keeping her back from giving her all in fear of hurting anyone. The elders may argue that such behavior is unfitting for any heiress. Ko replied, there have been rumors that they may recommend that Hinata-sama be dash. They will recommend nothing concerning any of my two daughters without my approval, Hayashi said with a hardened tone. Hinata still has time to improve in spite of Hanabi's faster progression. I will say, though, that it's most disappointing for me to see that Hanabi, who's 5 years her junior, is more adept to our clan's prized jutsus than my elder daughter. I may have to recommend requesting Yuhi Kurenai-san to be Hianta's trainer and eventual sensei. Hopefully, she might succeed at getting my daughter to improve in one way or another. Ko sighed lowly to himself, being aware who Kurenai was. From what he heard of the Genjutsu mistress, she was an ice queen recently promoted from Chunin to Jounin who apparently developed a form of maternal spirit for Hinata after spending some time with young heiress. This maternal fondness developed sometime after Hinata's mother's untimely death due to sickness. A/N. I don't know what really happened to Hayashi's wife. The manga never explained it, so I'm just making it up as I go. Maybe this Kurenai will succeed where the rest of us have failed, Ko figured. Excuse me, Hayashi-sama. I will depart from you now. Hayashi simply nodded as Ko turned and exited Hayashi's private study office. He walked and made his way to the main entrance of the Hyuga Manor when he caught sight of Sasuke approaching the manor. Sasuke stopped at the main entrance when he saw Ko making his way over to him. Sasuke-sen, Ko greeted. What brings you here? I was in the neighborhood when I decided to see if Hinata was available to talk to, Sasuke replied. I'm sorry, Sasuke-san. Ko apologized, but Hinata-sama stepped out a while ago. I see, Sasuke said with disappointment in his tone. Do you know where she went? I'm afraid I do not, Ko replied. I'm sorry I can't be of further help. HN, Sasuke grunted before turning and walking off away from the main entrance. Ko knew that this wasn't Sasuke's first visit to the manor as he came by before. Though Hinata was willing to speak with him, she always gave excuses as to why she couldn't spend the day hanging out with him in the village, though she would so do in a heartbeat with Naruto. Ko saw that Hinata didn't have the same interest in Sasuke as she does for Naruto, but it was clear that Sasuke had that particular interest in the Hyuga heiress. It was true that the Hyuga held no ill will toward the last Uchiha. However, as a whole, the Hyuga and Uchiha clans were at one time known to be bitter rivals in terms of whose dojutsu was stronger than the other. Though it had been said by some that in terms of true sight that the Byakugan surpassed the Sharingan. A/N. It's beyond me why Kishimoto never elaborated on this statement in the manga. In terms of Hinata's future love life, Ko had no say in the matter. However, he doubted that Hayashi would approve of having Sasuke wedded to either of his daughters and blending their bloodline limit with a once-rival clan. Elsewhere, Hinata and Naruto were still walking hand in hand through the streets of Konoha. By this time, it was common knowledge how close the Hyuga heiress and Naruto were. Most decided not to pay them any mind while a few still whispered whenever they passed by. As for Naruto and Hinata themselves, they didn't care either way. Hinata-chan, Naruto said, I've been meaning to ask you how did your spar with Hanabi went? Hinata sighed. It's difficult holding back in my sparring sessions against Hanabi when I've improved so much from how I used to be. Is it because you fear that you might seriously hurt her more than you want to? Naruto asked. That, Hinata admitted, but while trying to follow your example, it's hard listening to my father's harsh words of disappointment while I lose to Hanabi. Along with that, my sister really believes that she's actually stronger, faster, and more skilled in Juken than I am. Niji is no help either, as he looks for every opportunity to belittle or mock me with false comfort while making remarks about fate and predestination. Even the clan elders look at me as a failure as an heiress. I even heard a rumor that a few of them were saying how if this keeps up, I'll be forced to step down as clan heiress and be replaced with Hanabi. Holding up this misleading pretense as a failure is harder than I honestly thought it was going to be. Naruto understood where Hinata was coming from, especially since he was the very person who taught and explained to her the art of trickery. "Welcome to the life of the ninja," Naruto remarked with no trace of sarcasm. "Like I told you before, deception is one of our main weapons, and sometimes we can't even show our relatives what we're truly capable of. If they were to truly know everything about you, considering everything you told me about them, they would undoubtedly look for ways to keep you under their thumb. But hey, what do I know? I'm an orphan with no family or clan of my own to speak of, so dash. You have me, Naruto-kun," Hinata said, "and aren't I your best and closest friend?" "You are," Naruto smiled. "And speaking of being my best friend, how about a friendly sparring session?" "I'm up to it," Hinata accepted. With that, Naruto led her to one of the secluded training grounds away from civilian territory. Naruto was happy to see that no one else was there using the area, and after a careful search, it was clear that they were truly alone and not being spied on. "Well, we're here, Naruto-kun," Hinata said. "Are you still up to that sparring session you offered me earlier?" "Ready and waiting." Naruto grinned as he took a few steps away from Hinata and got into a fighting position. Hinata assumed her Juken stance, which looked more polished and professional than she let on when around others. "Are you ready?" Naruto challenged. "My moon's eye spring rabbit?" Despite her blush from the nickname he'd occasionally call her by, Hinata replied, "More than ever." Both opponents looked at each other with calculative eyes, as if they were waiting for the other to attack first. Acting fast, Hinata backflipped from an assault that came from behind at her feet from one of Naruto's Kage Bushins. She flipped away a few times before she stood back up. "That was a dirty trick," Hinata chided. "Really?" Naruto said. "And since when do our enemies fight fair?" This time Hinata took the offense and went to Naruto, the Kage Bushin trying to intersect her, but she effectively dispelled it with a quick Juken strike. Reaching Naruto, Hinata engaged him in one-on-one combat. Unlike her spar session with Hanabi, Hinata made no attempt to hold back against Naruto, although her Inryoku Fujin served to slow her down some. Regardless, she pushed forward in the effort to keep up with Naruto's speed. Naruto saw that Hinata had indeed gotten much better in terms of her endurance and stamina. In the past, she couldn't even last a full 7 minutes because of the strain that the Inryoku Fujin placed on her body, mind, and chakra coils. Now she was able to hold out longer than before, and her Juken improved even more so. As a result, backing away, Naruto formed a hand sign. "Tajua Kage Kagebushin no Jutsu," Naruto said as she summoned 25 clones to his side and had them surround Hinata. 25-1 Hinata-chan, Naruto grinned. "I got you surrounded." Not allowing herself to be deterred by the overwhelming number, Hinata stood her ground. "Quality not quantity," Hinata said. "That's what wins a fight." "Isn't that what you taught me, Naruto-kun?" "Well then, let's see what you've learned," Naruto proposed before his clones rushed at Hinata. Bracing herself. "Byakugan," Hinata said as she activated her bloodline limit and engaged the clones one by one, a few times 2 at a time. A couple of strikes managed to land their way on her, but she managed to hold her ground and fight back against them with more vigor and determination. As the number of clones decreased, Hinata saw that their speed and strength increased each time, thus adding to the difficulty of winning the battle and wearing her down faster. But there was no sign of Naruto ever releasing his seals at all. Therefore, Hinata didn't release hers either, but rather endured the increasing difficulty and fought on. By the time the clones were all gone, Hinata was sweating, breathing hard, and her clothes were a bit rugged and dirty. She had a couple of bruises and sores, but nothing serious. "Very good," Naruto complimented. "You lasted longer, and this time you managed to beat all 25 of my clones. You certainly improved from before my moon's eye spring rabbit." Hinata wiped away the dirt on her face and looked back at Naruto with a confident smile. "I didn't come all this way to stay stagnant in my advancements." "I see," Naruto said before bursting into a cloud of smoke. When the smoke cleared, Hinata found that Naruto was no longer in sight. In fact, he was no longer anyway on the training ground. Where did he go? Hinata wondered as she went to look for him with her bloodline limit still activated. After a couple of minutes, she still couldn't determine where he went. "Naruto-kun," Hinata asked while hoping to find him soon. Despite his strength, she's still worried about his well-being and safety. A moment later, Hinata finds a strong wind gust blow into her and knock her off her feet and on her rear end. Where did that wind come from? Hinata asked with a confused look while getting back up. That wind force was just spontaneous. It's more like from whom it came from, Naruto said as he appeared in front of her from behind one of the trees. What do you mean? Hinata asked as she deactivated her bloodline limit. Naruto took out a small piece of paper and showed it to Hinata. This special piece of paper is designed to help identify what our elemental affinities are. Elemental affinities? Hinata asked. Naruto continued. All of us have an affinity of some sort, whether it's earth, fire, wind, water, or lightning. If you take this piece of paper and focus chakra into it, it'll identify what your affinity is. What's yours? Hinata questioned. Wind, Naruto replied, which is a strong and rare attack element. Very few have this element. If the paper breaks down into dust, then you're an earth type. If it burns, then it's fire. If it tears in two, then it's wind. If it gets wet, then you're a water type. If it crumples, you're a lightning type. Now take this paper and focus your chakra into it to see what element you have. After taking the paper from him, Hinata did as instructed into pouring some of her chakra into the small piece of paper. A moment later after she did, Hinata saw that the paper got wet and soaked. Looks like you're a water type, Naruto acknowledged. I was hoping that I was a wind type like you, Naruto-kun, Hinata said with a hint of disappointment in her tone. Hey, Naruto said, water is still a powerful element. Besides having the capacity of dousing out fires and cooling down lava and molten steel, it can do all sorts of damages like tsunamis, for example. Plus, it's a most useful cleaning agent and life-sustaining element. We'd die faster without water than anything else. Hinata was thinking about what Naruto was telling her. I take it that your newfound understanding on elemental affinities was the result of your awakening knowledge in your mind, Hinata acknowledged. Naruto admitted. It is, though that happened 2 weeks ago. Since then, Hinata asked, why didn't you tell me sooner? And ruin the surprise, Naruto replied. Don't think so. I should have known you'd pull something like that on me, Hinata said. But still, how far along with your understanding and training with your affinity are you? I still have a long way to go, Naruto replied. Even with Kagebushins, mastering my affinity will require much time. It'll take even longer for me since I can't make as many Kagebushins as you, Hinata sighed. Naruto understood where Hinata was coming from. So far her limit in creating Kagebushin were 2 before succumbing to near chakra exhaustion. Naruto warned her not to go past 2, otherwise the Kenjutsu would end up killing her. Because of that, Hinata made use of Kagebushin, a rarity, at least for now. It's true that you can't make as many Kagebushins like I can, Naruto said, but we still have a large body of water for you to get started on in practicing. Naruto pointed to the lake that was just a minute walk away from them. Besides learning about elemental affinities, Naruto said, I learned something else too. Naruto led Hinata down to the lake and stopped in front of it. He took off his sandals and instructed Hinata to do so also. What are you planning to do? Hinata asked as she removed her sandals. Grinning, Naruto went over to the water and started walking on top of it. Hinata had an expression of surprise and disbelief. You're actually walking on top of the water, Hinata said. By this time, Naruto had already learned and mastered tree walking and taught it to Hinata, who also now mastered the ability to tree walking after a matter of days. Why don't you come join me? Naruto invited with his right hand extended out to her. It's no different from tree walking, except now you're doing it on water. Think of your chakra as a flotation device. Focus your chakra down to your feet and walk on top of the water. Doing as instructed, Hinata focused her chakra down to her feet and attempted to walk on top of the cold lake water. She took a few steps into the lake with most of her feet on top of the water. Looking good, Hinata-chan, Naruto encouraged. Hinata smiled at Naruto complimenting her and her concentrated more of her chakra to her feet until she was completely standing on top of the lake water. I'm actually doing it, Naruto-kun, Hinata said excitedly. That's pretty good for a first-timer, Naruto complimented. I plunged completely into the water on my first 7 attempts at the hot springs. Hinata laughed and asked, "Why on earth would you attempt this jutsu at the hot springs?" "As a means to get me to learn this jutsu faster, so as to not get burned," Naruto remarked. "That was rather extreme, don't you think?" Hinata remarked. "It got the job done, though," Naruto replied back. "Besides, you have better chakra control than I do, so water walking should come as second nature to you faster than it did me." He gestured for her to come over to him. Complying, Hinata walked over to him. Reaching him, Naruto took her by the hand and led her to the middle of the lake. "All right, my little spring rabbit," Naruto said. "We'll be starting your elemental training today, and what better place than in the middle of a lake?" "Is that really such a good idea?" Hinata asked worriedly. "I might fall into the lake from chakra exhaustion." "We're not doing any strenuous elemental training, Hinata-chan," Naruto said. "We're just starting with the elementary basics for now." In another part of Konoha, Kurenai was at the dango shop with her friend Mitarashi Enko, the special jounin interrogation specialist. The two women were currently taking a break from work and conversing together at the shop. "This year's jounin class graduated from the academy, and yet you still chose not to become a jounin sensei," Kurenai remarked. Enko took another bite into her dango. "I don't have time to deal with a pack of misfit delinquents," Enko said between biting and chewing her dango before swallowing. "Besides, none of them would survive the training and hell I'd put them through." "How would you know?" Kurenai asked. "You never took a team to see if they even possess any true potential." "I don't have time to be anyone's sensei," Enko replied. "Besides, my last sensei turned out to be nothing more than a psychopathic jutsu-obsessed lunatic I wish I could kill right now." "Such a vengeful spirit you have there, Enko," a masculine voice said from behind Enko. The two women turned to see Kakashi standing by them with his infamous orange book in hand with his face buried in it. "Kakashi," Kurenai greeted, "you're back earlier than expected. How did your new Genin team make out with your bell test?" "They're back in the academy, actually," Kakashi said without taking his face from out of the back. Kurenai and Enko weren't ignorant to Kakashi's reputation of having a long list of Genin graduates he failed for their failing his bell test. And, again, his new test missed the meaning behind his test. "Looks like you won't have a team for another year," Kurenai said. "I saved their lives to tell you the truth," Kakashi replied. "Their performance during the test was rather deplorable, and they had no intentions of helping and working with each other as they were out for their own success. They weren't ready for the real life as ninjas." "I'm sure next year's team will prove otherwise," Kurenai said. Knowing Kakashi, Enko remarked, "He'll fail them too, so don't hold your breath for even an instant." "You're probably right, Enko," Kakashi replied before blushing and giggling perversely after reading an explicit scene from his Aika Aika Paradise book. Kurenai frowned at Kakashi's behavior while Enko simply paid him no mind and continued eating and drinking her sake. "My eternal rival," yelled a flamboyant voice. Everyone knew that voice anywhere as they looked to see an all-too-familiar figure entering the establishment. "Mato Guy." "Guy," Kakashi asked, "what brings you here?" "I'm here to share with you the youthful jubilation of my Genin success in passing my test," Guy said excitedly. Tenten, Lee and Niji did far better than I expected and didn't allow the difficulty of the test to dampen their flames. "So your team passed your test," Kakashi replied. "I suppose congratulations are in order." "What about your team?" Guy inquired. "I failed them," Kakashi said. "They failed to see underneath the meaning of my bell test. They even failed the box lunch test I gave them as their second chance." "Don't let not having a team soil your youthful fire," Guy encouraged. "I'm sure your next team will do much better and pass your test." "Oh," Kakashi said mockingly from his book. "Did you say something, Guy?" "Arg," Guy shouted. "Curse you and your hip attitude, my eternal rival." "To think Guy and Kakashi have always been like this with each other while growing up," Kurenai remarked. "There are some things and people who'll never change," Enko said. "Speaking of change," Kurenai interjected, "I'm aiming to have Hinata as my future Genin pupil." "You mean Niji's younger cousin," Guy acknowledged. "That's right," Kurenai said sympathetically. "Her clan sees her as a burden for her inability to learn their clan fighting style." Regardless of their harsh view of the young girl, I know she has potential to rise above her difficulties and prove wrong all those who think little of her. You're already attached to the young girl, I see, Kakashi remarked. So, what's that to you? Kurenai asked. Just making a mental note of things, Kakashi replied with his head still buried in his book. I heard from others that the Hyuga heiress is a mostly shy and timid girl. But from what I've seen from time to time, I often question her shyness and timid nature. Why's that? Kurenai curiously, though she wondered where Kakashi was getting at. For instance, Kakashi explained, she's particularly close and fond of the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jinchuriki. I'm sure by now that you're very well aware that she's been seen with Naruto almost everywhere he goes, regardless of what most of the villagers say, or how she's viewed by them for doing so over the years. In spite of her timid and shy nature, her courage to openly stand up against the villagers' senseless discrimination toward Naruto is most admirable, more so than the genins I failed today and all the others I failed over the years. Yash, Guy said happily, Hinata-san's youthfulness is most radiant. I applaud her burning zeal in not to being influenced by the unyouthful spirit of those who scorn their hero. Like I said before, Kurenai remarked, she has potential, and I hope that I'm given the chance to bring them out. We'll see how things turn out next year then with the next gen in class, Kakashi stated. Back at the training ground, Hinata and Naruto had placed their sandals back on their feet after coming out from the lake, when their physical and elemental training concluded for the day.
I'm exhausted. Hinata breathe.
Likewise, Naruto said with a smile, but you did pretty good today, my little moons, I spring rabbit. Naruto moved and kissed Hinata softly on her left cheek. The gesture turned Hinata's shocked face bloody red. Naruto then realized what he did.
Hinata-han, Naruto panicked. I'm sorry.
I don't know what came over me. Hinata touched the spot on her face where Naruto kissed. A moment later, Hinata giggled excitedly with her face still red. He kissed me. Hinata shouted in her mind happily. Naruto-kun actually kissed me for the very first time. That means there's a chance that in the future we'll become something more than friends. Hinata turned to Naruto and assured, I'm not angry at you for kissing my face, Naruto-kun. To be honest, I really enjoyed it. Naruto sighed in relief, wanting to know where the impulse to want to kiss her came from. Swallowing her own fear and nervousness, Hinata went over and kissed Naruto's right cheek in return. Now it was Naruto's turn to blush and touch the spot where Hinata kissed him, realizing that was the first time Hinata kissed him. Now I know what it feels like to be kissed, Naruto grinned. It's a great feeling. Hinata giggled again before reaching and taking hold of Naruto's hand. Let's go back and get something to eat, Hinata suggested. Great idea, Naruto agreed. Let's get Sandaime Jizan to treat us out to lunch. The pair left the training ground with their hand and fingers entwined together. It was a while before they reached the Hokage Tower, but they got there nonetheless. Upon arriving, they stepped over to the secretary and told her that they were here to see the Hokage. The secretary called and informed Hiruzen of his visitors, and he told her that they were allowed up into his office. Happy that the Hokage had time for them, Hinata and Naruto hurried on their way to see Hiruzen. When they entered through the door of his office, they found Hiruzen sitting at his desk going over some documents among the many other documents on his desk. Hey Jizan, Naruto greeted. Are you busy? Hinata-chan and I were wondering if you'd treat us to ramen today. It's more like you were hoping he'd treat us, Naruto-kun, Hinata thought to herself. Hiruzen looked at the two youths in front of him and chuckled. Well, I suppose no harm could come out of it. Besides, I'm in need of a break anyway. Sweet, Naruto said excitedly before Sandaime stood up from his chair and went over to Hinata and Naruto. Well now, Hiruzen said, let's be on our way then. Meanwhile, Sasuke was still roaming about the streets of Konoha. Sasuke just kept walking, not wanted to pay heed to the one calling to him. The girl named Sakura finally caught up to Sasuke. The boy in turn had no choice but to confront her as he turned to face her. Yes, Sakura, Sasuke replied. What do you want? Well, Sasuke-kun, Sakura started. I was hoping that dash. Sasuke's eyes caught sight of something that caught his attention, which cut Sakura off. Sakura turned around to see what it was and found that it was Sandaime walking together with Naruto and Hinata. All three of them were heading towards Sasuke and Sakura. "It's Sandaime-sama," Sakura acknowledged, "and he's with Naruto and Hinata." Sasuke said nothing in reply. "Hello there, you two," Hiruzen greeted with his grandfather-like smile. "Is everything all right with you two?"
"Fine," Sasuke replied plainly.
"Everything's great, Sandaime-sama," Sakura said. "Where were you going?" "I'm out on my well-deserved break for lunch," Sandaime said. "Naruto and Hinata are here to accompany me. Would you both like to join us too?" "I'd love to," Sakura said excitedly. Seeing the chance to be near Hinata, Sasuke accepted. "I'll accept your invitation." Sasuke moved to be next to Hinata. The Uchiha turned to look at Naruto, who in turn resisted the urge to frown at him. Sakura hurried to stand next to Sasuke. "Well, let's be on our way then," Hiruzen suggested. The group then made their way over to Ichiraku. While on the way, Sasuke turned to Hinata and said, "I was hoping to run into you earlier. I stopped by, but was told that you weren't home." "No," Hinata said. "I left after my Juken training was over." "And how's that going?" Sasuke asked. Hinata lowered her head. "Not so well. I'm still having trouble understanding my clan style, though. I made some progress." "It's better than no progress," Sasuke replied. "What you obtained from it is an accomplishment by itself. Be proud of your current success, if that much, Hinata." "Teach, thank you," Hinata said, trying to act as meek and shy as possible. Sakura looked at Hinata with jealousy and resentment. Even though Hinata did nothing significant to really gain Sasuke's attention, or so Sakura believed. What could you possibly see in her Sasuke-kun? Sakura wondered with a frown. Naruto saw the look at Sakura's face but chose not to give any comment about it. "Hey, Chizan," Naruto asked. "Yes, Naruto," Hiruzen replied. "The author to that Ika Paradise book was one of your students, right?" Naruto asked. "The one called Jiraiya?" "Yes," Hiruzen admitted. "He's also one of the 3 Sanins." "Who are the other 2? Naruto asked. "I'd have thought by now that subject would have been covered in class by Irika," Hiruzen remarked. "It was," Sakura said before giving Naruto a dirty look. 2 days ago, in fact. Naruto happened to have been cutting class that day. He was given detention yesterday after Irika-sensei busted him trying to peep in the women's bathhouse that same afternoon he cut class. The pervert. Hinata recalled that day, acknowledging that she too was in the same bathhouse that day when the incident took place. She and the other girls were wondering why they heard Irika smacking and yelling at someone over the fence. "No way," Hinata gasped and wondered with hands over her mouth with a deep blush on her face. "Was Naruto-kun trying to peep at me?" "Irika-sensei was exaggerating," Naruto replied. "I was only trying to do more research on how to make my jutsu more effective. I just needed to study live young and mature beautiful specimens in order to do so. But I was careless and ended up getting caught by Irika-sensei." Hiruzen saw how Naruto was acting and even talking similar to Jiraiya. Sakura attempted to smack Naruto across his head. Naruto quickly ducked, which caused Sakura to end up missing his head in the process. That was when Hiruzen saw how Sakura was like a reflection of Tsunade in terms of her violent temper. "You're such a freaking hentai," Sakura barked before turning to Hinata. "I can't understand how you could stand being around him." "Naruto-kun isn't a bad person, Sakura-san," Hinata defended. "True, he has his faults, but who doesn't?" "I'm sure Sakura wouldn't have minded if it was Sasuke that was trying to peep at her," Naruto remarked. Sakura blinked for a moment and thought about what Naruto actually said. A moment later, a blush appeared on her face. "Point proven," Naruto remarked with a victorious smile. Sasuke snarled at Naruto for using him to prove his point, as perverted as it was. "Sasuke-kun wouldn't do such a thing," Sakura defended. "He has more sense of class and dignity. Unlike you." "Whatever," Naruto shrugged. "If I ever catch you trying to peep at me, Naruto," Sakura warned, "I'll beat you to within an inch of your life." Yep, Hiruzen thought very much like Tsunade. "I told you," Naruto retorted. "I needed to study live young and mature beautiful specimens. That did not entail you being one of them. Plus, you're too masculine and flat-chested to give me any inspiration." "Why you?" Sakura yelled murderously as she chased after Naruto, who in turn laughed and ran from her. "Come back here, Naruto," Sakura screamed. "I'll make you pay for insulting my beauty." Hiruzen sighed to himself, seeing how Naruto and Sakura acted too much like his past students. Even the way they interacted was similar. At the very least, Sasuke smirked, the dope did me a favor in getting Sakura to chase after him and leaving Hinata behind. Turning to Hinata, Sasuke asked, "Are you really sure about what you said and not being bothered by what Naruto was caught doing 2 days ago?" "He said that it was for his jutsu," Hinata replied. "If it meant strengthening it, then dash." "You mean his Oiroke no jutsu," Sasuke interjected. "I'm sure he was using that as a cover to avoid getting in more trouble." But it Hinata stuttered. "It what?" Sasuke inquired. "It knocked you and Sandaime-sama unconscious, if I recalled correctly," Hinata meekly reminded. "Naruto's jutsu proved to be a most effective instrument, especially when he said that he could have killed you both and the other males if he were serious after knocking all of you out." Both Hiruzen and Sasuke frowned and lowered their heads in being reminded of their most shameful moment. "I'll never hear the end of this," Hiruzen mental sighed. "Even after 3 years. Naruto baka," Sasuke thought. "I recall him making me look like a fool in front of Hinata and everyone else twice that day. There must be a way to resist that jutsu." As for Sandaime, he could only wonder what the unknown future had in store for him and the next genin class that was to graduate next year. Hiruzen is already thinking about the next genin class set to graduate from the academy next year. Hinata's mask as a failure has everyone convinced, and more of Jiraiya's traits, knowledge, and wisdom is manifesting through Naruto. Find out what happens next time. Chapter 6. Cut Day. 10 months later. Hinata, age 13, was in her room assembling everything she needed. After seeing that all of the food and other required necessities were gathered together, she took and opened the scroll Naruto, age 13, prepared for her in advance. She used it to seal away everything she assembled in her room. When that was done, she rolled the scroll close and tied it before hiding it inside her Eskimo-like jacket. Seeing that she was ready to go, she left her room and made a quick pace through the house to meet up with Naruto, age 13. On the way, she passed by Hanabi, age 8, who was walking from the opposite from her. "You sure are in a hurry this early in the morning, Mei-san," Hanabi acknowledged. "I'm HUHU, trying to meet up with Naruto-kun," Hinata replied between her stuttering. "I see," Hanabi replied, "though I still don't understand what you see in him, Mei-san." "Why so?" Hinata asked as turned to face her younger sister. "He's not a prodigy," Hanabi explained, "or strong as Niji, age 14. He has the poorest grades and is the dead laster class from what this Uchiha Sasuke, age 13, once told me when he came by here some time ago. And everyone knows this Naruto is a troublemaker and he's constantly getting into trouble. I'm even more confused as to why father, despite knowing about Naruto's infamous reputation, even allows you to associate with such a hooligan, let alone hang out with him from time to time. I fear that your time with him will have a bad influence on you, Nei-san. You may start acting like him. The elders, as you already know, don't approve of your friendship with him." What Hanabi didn't mention was that frequently she'd hide behind walls, crates, and other objects large enough to conceal her appearance whenever she was secretly eavesdropping or spying on Hinata and Naruto whenever he came by to spend time with Hinata. Sometimes she would try to move and hide behind closer objects in order to hear what they were talking about. So far, Hanabi wasn't able to find out much about the things they'd talk about, and oftentimes they would move on and head someplace else before she could really hear anything they were talking about. Hanabi would try to study Naruto while trying to ascertain whether he was all of the negative things she heard people say about him. She never once felt any form of hostility or danger from him as she overheard some of the things the villagers said of him. She couldn't understand why almost everyone in Konoha hated Naruto and treated him harshly. True, he pulls a lot of pranks and jokes, but none of them were ever life-threatening to anyone. "And where do you stand in all this?" Hinata asked. "I doubt what I say would matter anyway," Hanabi remarked. "You wouldn't listen regardless, and you would still choose to be with Naruto anyway." "I will admit," Hinata replied meekly, "I never thought you were that attentive to me. I learned to be mindful of things that take place on around me," Hanabi said, something father taught me. But tell me, why do you choose Naruto over Sasuke? I know this Sasuke person really likes you, and a few times he even asked me a few things about you. Did he? Hinata asked, rather surprised by that revelation. And what did you tell him? If you must know, Hanabi replied, I told him that if he's so interested in you to go ask you his questions himself. I see, Hinata said, holding back a giggle that wanted to escape her throat. I appreciate your concern for me, but I must be on my way now. But Nasan dash. Hanabi was about to say something further, but Hinata turned and ran off from the manor. She never answered my question, Hanabi said to herself before she turned and walked deeper into the house. Why does Nasan like Naruto so much? And why is father willing to overlook Naruto's faults and ill-viewed reputation and allow him to even associate with us? I don't understand. Meanwhile, Hinata saw that was she about to be running late, so she quickened the pace. She was making good timing when Hinata stopped and turned to see Sasuke walking and making his way over to her. No, Hinata sighed, not now. Sasuke-san, Hinata greeted. Smiling, Sasuke said, since you're on your way to the academy, how about we walk and talk together? I could use the company. I suppose, Hinata replied as Sasuke smoothly walked and stepped up next to her at her left. Sasuke and Hinata started walking towards the academy, while Hinata's mind was racing with many thoughts in her mind. This isn't good, Hinata thought. If I don't think of something fast, I'll... Sasuke-kun, two female voices yelled out. Sasuke sighed and grumbled under his breath. Not those two again. Hinata looked to see Ino, age 13, and Sakura, age 13, running and racing to catch up with Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, wait for me. Ino shouted as she quickened her pace. Out of my way, Ino pig. Sakura yelled while trying to shove Ino out of her way. That chance forehead girl, Ino retorted as she shoved Sakura away from her. The two girls caught up to Sasuke and Hinata. Sasuke-kun, Ino asked as charming and feminine as possible, why don't we walk together to class? No way, Sakura argued. I'm going to be walking with Sasuke-kun. Seeing this momentary distraction, Hinata looked to see a collared black cat run by. Deciding to follow it, Hinata went after the cat, causing the cat to run off from her. A moment later, Sasuke turned to see Hinata running from them in a different direction. Where is she going? Sasuke asked himself before leaving Ino and Sakura to argue with each other before realizing that Sasuke was no longer there with them but following after Hinata. What does he see in her? Ino asked aloud. I'm a clan heiress too. Shut up, pig, Sakura replied. I'm someone special too. In your own world you are forehead. Ino shot back as she and Sakura chased after Sasuke. The Uchiha looked and saw Hinata turn and run into an alley. He followed after her and soon entered the same alley she ran into. He found Hinata trying to encourage a cute-looking young black kitten standing on top of a tall fence to come to her. You ran all this way for a small cat, Sasuke asked skeptically. It might belong to someone, Hinata said. I thought I'd retrieve and return the cat. Sakura and Ino entered the alley and found Sasuke and Hinata standing in front of the tall wooden fence that blocked any passage through the alley. Here, kitty, Hinata said sweetly with her arms extended toward the feline. It's all right.
You can come to me.
I'll take you back to your owner safely, I promise. The black kitten meowed before it turned and jumped to the other side of the fence and ran off. It got away, Hinata said a bit sadly. I really thought I had her that time. You wasted Sasuke-kun's time for a cat, Sakura asked with a scolding tone. Hinata lowered her head meekly. That's enough out of you, Sakura, Sasuke replied as he turned away from the fence. It's not Hinata's fault. I chose to follow after her. Besides, we need to hurry on our way to class now. We're about to be late. Seeing what Sasuke was talking about, the four of them made their way out of the alley and toward the academy. The said black kitten jumped back over the fence and walked out of the alley to see the group heading away from her. The kitten then ran off in another direction. 30 minutes later, outside the village walls of the forest. She's running late, Naruto said as he stood at the bottom base of the waterfall. It's not like Hinata to be late like this. I wonder if something came up. Naruto waited for another 8 minutes. He was about to get up and investigate what happened when his eyes caught sight of a black kitten approaching him. Curiously, he went over toward the kitten as the female feline meowed to him. "Hey there," Naruto asked. "What are you doing out here?" When he got close enough to the kitten, he was about to reach down to pick it up when the kitten burst into a cloud of smoke. "Huh," Naruto said confusedly. When the smoke cleared, it revealed to be Hinata standing in the spot the kitten was. "Hinata-chan," Naruto said happily. "What happened?" "I was getting worried. It was hard getting here without getting caught," Hinata said. "I ran into one obstacle and then another."
What were they? Naruto asked.
Hanabi kept pressing the matter about why I like you so much before I was able to get away from her, Hinata explained. "I had a run-in with Sasuke, who wanted to be my escort to the academy before Ino and Sakura appeared wanting to accompany Sasuke to class." "How did you get away from them?" Naruto asked. "I found a kitten and followed after it into an alley. Catching it, I quickly made a Kagebushin of myself before I leaped to the top of the fence blocking the alley with the kitten. Letting the kitten go to the other side of the fence, I hinged into the same kitten and stood top of the fence just as Sasuke arrived. My clone acted quickly in acting like she was trying to retrieve and bring me back home to my owner. I ran off and hid myself until I was in the clear to leave by means of another route and make my way over here where you were waiting. But I had to stay in that kitten form while avoiding being spotted." Naruto laughed and applauded Hinata's ingenuity. "That was so cool how you got away from them, my Sly Moon's Ice Spring Rabbit," Naruto cheered. "You're becoming more like me every day." "Yeah," Hinata replied. "That's what Hanabi said. I'm still wondering how you talked me into cutting class today, just so dash. You can spend the day with me and do something better with your time other than listening to Iruka-sensei ever so interesting lectures." Naruto interjected. "If father finds out about this," Hinata said worriedly. "He won't," Naruto assured. "This is our cut day, the day we get to cut class and do whatever we want so long we don't get caught doing so. I pulled stunts like this through the year, whenever I wanted to skip out on class without getting caught when there was something I wanted to train myself in that required more of my time and energy. Besides, I believe I told you already that Iruka-sensei's planned lectures that I managed to look into yesterday won't involve any spars or any physical training. Just reviews of about the history of our late Yondaime and how he brought about Kyuubi's defeat." "And that doesn't interest you as something worth reviewing?" Hinata asked. "Did it do likewise with you seeing that we're both here now?" Naruto shot back. "Fair comment." Hinata shrugged before reaching into her jacket and pulling the rolled-up Tide Scroll out. "In any case, there's no turning back now. We might as well get our proclaimed cut day started." "You sound more excited about this than I do," Naruto teased. "I just hope we don't get caught," Hinata said. "Relax," Naruto assured. "I'll make sure nothing happens to you." "You promise?" Hinata asked for reassurance. "I give you my word," Naruto said confidently, "and I never go back on my word. It's my Nindo, Databea." Having his reassurance, Hinata opened the scroll and laid it on the ground. Standing in front of it, she made the required hand sign. "Kai," Hinata said as the scroll burst into a cloud of smoke and unsealed its contents. Meanwhile, everyone was in class reviewing the notes Iruka was giving them about Yondaime and his time reigning as the Hokage before Kyuubi's attack on the village. Hinata was sitting at her desk going over her notes while Naruto, now wearing a ridiculous bright orange jumpsuit with blue and white linings around it with a pair of goggles around his head, was resting his head on the desk, sleeping. After another 20 minutes, "Naruto!" Iruka yelled. Naruto woke up instantly and stood up from his desk and yelled, "I'm innocent. I swear I wasn't peeping and sneaking into the women's bathhouse again." Everyone burst out laughing at Naruto's reaction as he looked around and realized where he was. "At least we know where your mind is, Naruto," Iruka remarked. "Now you mind explaining what we the class were discussing?" "Something about Yondaime and IWA, and how he slaughtered a whole army of IWA ninjas by himself in less than a second," Naruto said, scratching the back of his head. "Though I don't quite understand how a mere human like Yondaime could kill a Bijou, let alone the strongest of them. I know Yondaime was a powerful Hokage and everything, but it doesn't seem to make sense to me whenever I think about it. Something about that story doesn't quite add up. Iruka hid his nervous expression while thinking of something to say. Could Naruto be on the verge of figuring out the village's darkest secret? Iruka wondered worriedly. Naruto, Kiba, age 13, said, "Little ever makes sense to you. Besides, I'm sure you were sleeping in class when that part of your question was covered." Before Naruto could retort, "That's right," Iruka said, piggyback riding on Kiba's statement. "Next time stay awake for my class, and you'd probably understand the village's history more than you do now." "Whatever," Naruto snorted as he sat back down on his seat and turned to look at Sasuke. "HN," Sasuke grunted as his response to Naruto. "Don't act like you're all cool and crap team," Naruto said. "Naruto," Iruka warned, "one more outburst from you, and I'll have you on bathroom duty." "Don't you mean bathhouse duty?" Naruto asked jokingly. "No, you moron," Iruka yelled with his face reddened. Everyone was laughing again. "Idiot," Sasuke muttered. "Just sit down and pay attention," Iruka said after calming down. Seeing that Naruto was done causing another ruckus, Iruka resumed the review with the class. "I think I played my part convincingly," Naruto thought, "and Hinata is doing likewise also." Back at the waterfall deep in the forest, Naruto, wearing only his black swimming trunks, was standing at the base of the waterfall with 6 of his Kagebushins, was catching his breath while they were standing in front of the falling waters. Hinata, wearing her white two-piece bathing suit, was standing on the water several feet behind Naruto and his clones. She was wearing her swim's clothes underneath her regular clothes earlier before she left her house, thus she didn't have to waste time putting them on after arriving at the waterfall. She simply had to remove her regular clothes and sandals. It was likewise with Naruto and his swim trunks. Off to the side at the shore of the waterfall was a prepared picnic site with their drinks, lunches, towels, and folded clothes were. A large comforter blanket was opened and lying on ground where their belongings were. A moment later, Naruto dispelled his clones and absorbed the experience his clones had gained for him. "That was really good, Naruto-kun," Hinata cheered. "You managed to split the waterfall that time?" Naruto turned and gave Hinata a large smile. "I've been practicing that for some time now," Naruto said. "It's only now I've managed to finally get the job done." "You came a long way," Hinata replied, "but I still have a way to go in mastering my water manipulation." "But you made great progress too," Naruto encouraged. "Far more than you thought you would. At the rate you're going, you'll be a true spring water rabbit." Manipulating some of the water around them, Hinata levitated it over to her and shaped it into 2 bunny ears over her head while making a bunny tail with the rest of the remaining water. "Aren't I already a spring rabbit?" Hinata joked. "A delicious-looking one at that, I might add," Naruto said with a lecherous smile as he eyed Hinata up and down. As a young teenager, Naruto saw that Hinata was developing in a beautiful girl and her breasts were developing between B and C cup, which was surprising even for him. With regards to her body, she had a figure many girls their age would die for, and her secret training with Naruto only served to help shape it all the more. Hinata's face was burning crimson at Naruto's behavior and how he was studying her. True, Hinata admitted to herself, Naruto-kun is a pervert. There's no denying that fact. But he never had me do anything I was never comfortable with or bring more trouble for me than it was worth. As Hinata was looking at Naruto, she too saw how Naruto have changed and developed over the course of time. No longer was he that slim, undernourished orphan who ate only ramen or whatever else he could eat. His time practicing and training vigorously with a better diet plan really did works on his now built, well-toned, yet still developing body. And his seals Inryoku Fujin, Gravity Seal, Chakra Sokobuku Fujin, Chakra Restraint Seal, served to add to the strength and stamina his body radiated and carried. Still, Hinata thought, there were times secretly wished that I could just... "Hinata," Naruto called out, "Earth to Hinata-chan." Hinata snapped out of her dazed daydreaming and looked back at Naruto. "Were you dreaming of me?" Naruto teased. Hinata's red face clearly confirmed Naruto's suspicions. "I hope I was everything you were dreaming of in whatever fantasy you were having," Naruto remarked.
Naruto-kun dere, Hinata giggled.
"Well," Naruto said, changing the subject, "it's time for your training session." Nodding, Hinata prepared for her training as she walked and moved away from the waterfall. Clearing her mind off all distractions, she assumed a juken stance on top of the water and started practicing the water manipulation stances that Naruto helped her learn. The moves themselves weren't typical water manipulating stances that most water-type ninjas used. These stances were more like a hybrid blend of Tai Chi and ballet dancing with a mix of juken. For the past 10 months, Hinata had been practicing hard in her water manipulation. While doing so, she experimented on creating new water battle moves, both offensive and defensive types, and combining them with her juken. That was proving to be a difficult task over the first couple of months, as a backlash effect would occur whenever she failed to fuse her juken and water manipulation with Byakugan. In time, though, she was seeing signs that her perseverance and consistency were starting to pay off as she was making pleasing progress in her efforts. For half of their elemental training over the months, Naruto had focused on Hinata strengthening her stances so that she could withstand the backlash effect of failing to fuse juken and water manipulation, while at the same time be able to control the amount of water she used. Naruto explained that using elemental manipulation and juken would be very difficult to pull off, since it was almost like trying to do two things at the same time. But he was sure that in time, Hinata would be able to pull it off. Naruto's own training was far from easy. He spent nearly every day practicing his wind manipulation, but slowly and surely he was making progress and improving his strengthening the use of his elemental affinity, along with strengthening his chakra control with the help of his chakra, Sokobuka Fujin. As Naruto watched Hinata gracefully maneuver her body with such fluidity, with the river waters levitating and dancing around her body as she manipulated it, he couldn't help but admire her beauty, strength, and self-confidence she developed over the years. If only she would do that kind of water dancing naked under a full moon in a starlit night, Naruto wondered with a blush and perverted giggle escaping his mouth. After another 25 minutes, Hinata smoothly concluded her training and took a breath. "How was I?" Hinata asked as she turned to look back at Naruto. "Mind if I get your performance on DVD?" Naruto joked. Hinata giggled, with her cheeks reddened. "So I did good then," Hinata figured. "Awesome is more like it." Databeo.
Naruto replié, small.
"Let's take a lunch break." Hinata agreed and walked over to their picnic site. Reaching the comforter blanket, Naruto reached down and retrieved both his and Hinata's towels. The pair dried themselves up before sitting on their comforter blanket together. "This is great," Naruto said happily. "The best hooky I ever played." "For what it's worth," Hinata said as she got their lunches out from her basket. "I'm happy I decided to follow along with you." "I know," Naruto agreed. "Because you're my girl." Naruto smacked his mouth shut, realizing what came out of his mouth. By this time, Hinata herself was shocked and surprised by Naruto's declaration, and the color on her face testified to that. "Stupid," Naruto mentally berated. "Why did you have to say something so cheesy like that?" "I'm Naruto-kun's girl," Hinata thought excitedly. "Naruto-kun called me his girl. Does that mean that I'm his girlfriend officially now?" Naruto was about to say something when, "Naruto-kun," Hinata asked hesitantly with hope present in her voice, Do you really think of me as your girl?" Naruto sighed, seeing no point in cover it up. "Hinata-chan," Naruto said, "I know that we're close friends and have been for a few years now. I would be lying if I said that there weren't times I wish we could be more than just friends. To be honest, I always wanted to ask you to be my girlfriend, but back then I never worked up the courage to do so in spite of that fact that I knew you always liked me." Hinata felt her heart beating hard and racing with anticipation and hope. Even if they did get caught and in trouble playing hooky later, for Hinata, it would be worth it if her expectations for what Naruto was about to ask her came true. "Hinata-chan," Naruto asked, "will you be my girlfriend?" Hinata didn't quite hear him clearly as he asked the question too quickly with his words blurred today. "Huh," Hinata muttered. Seeing his mistake, Naruto corrected himself and asked again, "Will you be my girlfriend?" For Hinata, it was like Naruto proposed to her. She couldn't remember the last time she was this happy. "I'd love to," Hinata accepted happily with a few joyful tears coming down her face. "Yada," Naruto cheered excitedly before embracing an equally happy Hinata, whose face burned hotly from feeling Naruto's body against her skin. Naruto too blushed upon feeling Hinata's soft body and skin against his. He had to pull away, fearing his perverted nature would get the better of him. "This has been the best day of my life, Naruto-kun," Hinata said as she passed Naruto his sandwich. "Best day of your life so far." Naruto grinned as he and Hinata ate lunch together as an official couple for the first time. Later that day, at the academy, lunch break was over and Naruto was walking down the hallway mumbling about how he just narrowly passed his exam a while ago. It wasn't a perfect grade like Sasuke, but that was the appearance he wanted to accomplish. After all, he had to maintain his facade as the dead last of his class. Soon, though, Naruto looked to see Mizuki, one of the Chunin Academy senseis, making his way over to him. "Hey, Naruto," Mizuki greeted with a friendly tone. Naruto smiled and greeted. "Hello, Mizuki-sensei. I heard from Iruka that you actually passed your test," Mizuki said, even though it was only by so much from what he told me. "Hey," Naruto replied, "I passed, and that's all that matters. It's just another stepping stone in my quest to be Hokage someday." "I know," Mizuki said. "You told me and everyone this before. You are aware that the Genin exams will be held tomorrow, yes?" "Of course," Naruto said, scratching the back of his head. "I didn't forget, though I hate to admit that it'll be my third attempt at trying to pass that test again." "You shouldn't worry too much, Naruto," Mizuki encouraged. "I'm sure you'll do better and pass this time around." "You really believe I stand a chance?" Naruto asked. "You know Iruka-sensei isn't the forgiving type when it comes to those exams." "Perhaps not," Mizuki agreed. "But don't sell yourself short yet. Just give it your all, and I'm sure that'll be enough for you to pass and finally become one of Konoha's Genins." "Thanks for the vote of confidence, Mizuki-sensei," Naruto smiled. "Just you wait. I'll pass with flying colors. Databeo." With that said, Naruto left Mizuki alone in the hallway and made his way to his next destination. "Do you really believe in Naruto-kun being able to pass and become a Genin?" Hinata asked, coming out from hiding behind a nearby staircase. Mizuki turned and found Hinata approaching him. "Hinata," Mizuki greeted. "How long were you there?" "I was heading back to class when I heard you encouraging Naruto-kun to do his very best in next week's Genin exams," Hinata explained. "Very few believes Naruto can pull it off and achieve his goal in becoming Genin." "Well," Mizuki said, "he's no prodigy like Sasuke or your cousin Neji. He doesn't have book smarts like your classmate Sakura. But he has a strong drive that keeps him going regardless of his many failings." "You shouldn't worry yourself too much about him," Hinata, Shikamaru, age 13, said as he and Chuji, age 13, approached her from behind. "It's just troublesome to do so. Whether or not he passes the Genin exams this time around depends entirely on his performance, much more so than his perseverance, regardless how admirable his determination is." Hinata sighed lowly, knowing that Shikamaru was right in his statement. "You didn't have to be that harsh about it, Shikamaru," Chuji said. "She's obviously concerned for her friend's career as a future ninja." "Well," Shikamaru replied, "I just don't want Hinata to build up any false hopes or have too high of expectations for what might or might not happen. It's the sad reality of things in this life we live in." "You truly are a source for comfort," Chuji remarked cynically. "As much as I'd like for us to stick around and discuss Naruto's uncertain future," Mizuki said, "I think it would be best if the three of you hurried on your way back to class. Iruka would be rather upset with me if he believes me to be the reason for why you guys are late for his class." Nodding, the three hurried on their way back to class. 13 minutes later, all of the students were conversing with each other while waiting for Iruka to enter the classroom. A minute later, "Sorry for the delay. I got held up taking care of something at the last minute," Iruka apologized as he entered the classroom. Everyone gradually quieted down as he went over to his desk. "Everyone's back, I see," Iruka said as he stood behind his desk and looked around and found that everyone was sitting at their seats. Almost everyone. "Has anyone seen Naruto?" Iruka asked with annoyance, clearly present in his tone. "Maybe he decided to drop out and start the class all over," one of the students remarked. Some of the students snickered, which only served to annoy Irika further. What are you up to now, Naruto-kun? Hinata wondered. An hour later, at the Hokage Tower, Hiruzen was relaxing in his private study, not having to do so much paperwork. He decided to take the time to practice his calligraphy as a means to enjoy his current free time. Soon, though, his once free time was interrupted. Hiruzen sighed, seeing that his once peaceful day was going to end all but peacefully.
Hokage-sama.
Come quickly. It's an emergency. Two Chunins ran into his private study as he turned to face them. What now? Hiruzen asked with annoyance in his voice. Is Naruto causing trouble again? It's the Hokage monument, one of the Chunin said. He's vandalizing it with paint, even now as we speak. Hiruzen sighed again as he puffed out some from his tobacco pipe. Having no other choice, he got up and placed on his Hokage robes and hat before making his way to the roof of the Hokage Tower. Upon arriving with a few over Chunins and Jounins, they found Naruto on one of the scaffold brazenly painting and writing large graffiti all over the monument. On Senju Hashirama's head, who is also known as the Shodai, there was a painting of the Senju clan's seal insignia and a spiral painted next to it. And all over the Shodai's face were paintings of spirals. On Senju Tobirama's face, once known as Night Aim, were graffiti writings that blatantly stated never scored, celibate, and never peeped. On Hiruzen's head, there was red paint drawn down both ends of his nose with a blush that was painting on his cheeks. His face also had graffiti writings that said, pervy old monkey. On Namake's Minato's face, once known as Yondaime, were black whisker markings painted on his cheeks with a statement that said, the Uzumaki will rise and become the second coming of Yondaime and surpass all of the previous Hokages. By this time, everyone in the village was seeing the stunt Naruto was pulling in front of everyone. The question was, how was he able to do so without anyone finding out up until now? Naruto, one of the ninjas on the Hokage Tower, yelled, "What the hell do you think you're doing? You blind stupid." Naruto yelled back with a large cheese smile, "I'm giving this old monument a new makeover. It's been in great need of one, and I'm just the one to deliver it. You have any idea how much trouble you're in?" Another ninja yelled. "Like that would stop me." Naruto retorted with grin never leaving his face. "It's more fun doing this here than listening to any crappy ass lecture I get from Irika-sensei." As if on cue, Irika appeared on the roof of the tower where Sandaime and the other ninjas were. "Hokage-sama," Irika said with a bow. "1,000 apologies. Naruto was reported missing and not returned to class this early this afternoon, and I've been looking all over for him. It's only now that I've found him committing this act of vandalism while cutting class. You, and everyone else I might add," Hiruzen replied calmly. "Let me deal with this," Irika said as he turned and looked up at Naruto. Naruto turned and looked down at Irika, staring back at him angrily. "You're in a world of trouble for cutting class again and vandalizing the Hokage monument. Catch me first." Naruto laughed as he leaped off the scaffold with the cans of paint in hand and made his way to the surface from scaffold to scaffold. Irika and the other ninjas took to flight to chase after Naruto. Reaching the streets, Naruto started running from the ninjas after him, while still holding the cans of paint. "Get back here, Naruto," one of the ninjas ordered. Naruto just laughed and continued running while hopping over fences of backyards, gardens, and alleys. Getting to one alley, the group of ninja lost sight of him. "Where did that scornful child go?" the lead jounin asked aloud. They looked around and saw Naruto nowhere in sight. Just then, paint fell and spilled over them from above. "Suckers." Naruto laughed before tossing the emptied cans of paint at them and running off. "Damn you, Kubigaki," one of the jounins cursed. Naruto ran off with the same ninjas after him. A minute later, he turned the corner to his right and hid behind another, his camouflaging cloak, blending in with the wall as the paint-covered ninjas ran and passed him by with realizing it. "Get back here," the lead jounin ordered. Naruto grinned victoriously, removing the camouflaging cloak off himself, and said, "That was so easy." A second later, "Hey, Naruto!" Irika screamed from behind Naruto. The blonde jumped and turned to see Iruka. The hell? Naruto yelled. Huh. Could you be finding me? Never mind that, Iruka retorted. You got a lot of nerve cutting my class again. By now that shouldn't come as a surprise, Naruto remarked. Iruka's right. I started twitching as he felt the urge to repeatedly smack Naruto across the head build up. I'll deal with you being punishment later, Iruka stated. Right now I have a class to teach, and like it or not you're coming with me. Before Naruto could argue, Iruka grabbed and dragged Naruto back to Academy. Meanwhile, Hinata and Naruto were enjoying a nice swim together in the river when they decided that it was time to clean up and return back. The fact that their Kagebushins didn't dispelling told them that everything was going good so far. This was the most fun I had in a long time, Hinata smiled. Thanks for a lovely day, Naruto-kun. I aim to please, my moon's eye spring rabbit. Naruto grinned as he approached and stood in front of her. The water level they were standing in was a few inches beneath their waists. He stood facing her. Hinata felt heat building up within her being as Naruto looked ready to do what she believed he was going to do, with the roaring waterfall ever so audible in the background. No way, Hinata thought, is he really going to? I did agree to become his girlfriend, and Naruto felt surprisingly nervous for what he desired to do at this point. Idiot, Naruto's mind screamed. Just kiss her already. She wants this as much as you do. So go for it. Seeing the looking on his face, Hinata asked, Naruto-kun, are you Auric Dash? Hinata was cut off when Naruto suddenly embraced and kissed her on her lips for the very first time. Her eyes widened from both shock and excitement when she felt Naruto's lips against hers. He's kissing me, Hinata screamed happily in her mind. I'm being held and kissed by Naruto-kun. She felt like she was in a dream. Everything seemed too good to be true. That thought, however, was knocked to the side when she felt Naruto's arms wrapped around her waist and held her a little tighter to his still wet figure. While fighting the urge to faint, Hinata embraced and wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck and returned the kiss with the same amount of passion as their kiss grew deeper with their tongues waltzing together. Despite how cold the water was, Hinata felt completely warm within herself. For Naruto, it was an amazing experience. He read from many Aika Paradise books how great kissing a beautiful girl was, and even what styles of kissing were used, one of which he was trying out and using. But he never in his life thought it would be and feel this good. On the same note, though, it took every bit of self-control he had within himself to keep from getting carried away with the position he was in with Hinata, as he was starting to feel more hormonal than he counted on. The feeling of her smooth and wet body against his was driving him mad, and he was so tempted to do a little more. However, not wanting to ruin the best moment he was having with his new girlfriend, Naruto exercised self-restraint. It wasn't until after another 4 minutes when the couple finally, but reluctantly pulled their lips away from each other in order to catch their breaths. Wow, Naruto exclaimed with a blush of his own on his face. So that's how you taste like Naruto-kun. Hinata giggled before resting her head on his shoulder with her arms still wrapped around his neck. This was a perfect day. You made me so happy. Thank you. No, Hinata, Naruto said. Thank you. If anything, I don't deserve a maiden as beautiful and elegant as you. Too bad this moment can't last longer. We have to go back, and soon. I know, Hinata admitted with disappointment present in her tone. But let's bask in this for just another minute. Naruto agreed as he continued to hold Hinata in his arms. Soon, though, the couple made moves to clean themselves up and return back to the village. While doing so, they had to make certain that they didn't leave any loose ends behind. 20 minutes later, back at the academy, everyone was standing online in class performing a henge test Iruka had everyone do on account of Naruto cutting class in the middle of the day. Everyone but Hinata gave hateful glares at Naruto, but he simply shrugged them off and told everyone that he didn't give a damn. Soon, though, Naruto, being last in line, went up next and was told to do a henge. Grinning, Naruto gathered some of his reserved chakra and performed his jutsu as he burst into a cloud of smoke. When the smoke cleared, Irika-sensei, Naruto said sensually and with an arousal tone as the naked, big-breasted blonde young woman he transformed into with both hands on both breasts with very little smoke cover her privates. Can you give me a more pleasurable form of examination, please? Or would you prefer to watch while I perform it myself? Gawking at the sexy young naked female, Naruto turned into with what was spoken. Irika, Sasuke, and the other males present flew backwards from nasal blood loss. Naruto changed back and burst into a fit of laughter. Hinata shook her head with closed eyes at Naruto's performance while the rest of the girls in class were seething bloodlust at Naruto, especially for the irritating fact that he could still get that kind of reaction from Sasuke. That was so easy, Naruto laughing. It's so fun knocking you guys out like this. Don't use that absurd hentai jutsu in my class and learn to take me more serious. Irika yelled at Naruto, in a fit of rage after regaining consciousness faster than Naruto expected. After a few moments, all of the other boys woke up and were unhappy about how Naruto caught them all off guard again. The rest of you may go home now, Irika said. Naruto, stick around. You're not off the hook, not after the stunt you pulled on the monument. All of the other students got their things and left the class. Sasuke turned and gave Naruto a hate-filled death glare. Damn you, Naruto, Sasuke thought angrily. You caught me off guard with your Oiroke no Jutsu again and made me look like a fool in front of Hinata. Again. Do you miss Naruto-chan, Sasuke-kun? Naruto mocked with a look that spelled trouble. Shall I arrange for you to see her again? I can if that's what you want. The result was instantaneous as Irika smacked Naruto hard across the head. By this time, Kiba, Chuji, and Shikamaru were holding their guts while laughing their asses off at the scene between Naruto, Sasuke, and Irika. Knock it off, Naruto, Irika berated. Naruto rubbed the spot where Irika smacked him. Damn it, sensei, Naruto yelled. Lighten up. I was only joking. Naruto-kun. Hinata sighed with her eyes closed. I'm going to seriously hurt Naruto one of these days, Sakura growled. Get in line, forehead, Ino remarked while radiating the same amount of bloodlust and malice. Later, Naruto and Hinata returned back to Konoha undetected and stood on the off of one of the houses Naruto shushed to with Hinata being carried bridal style in his arms. Naruto was about to say something when Naruto-kun, Hinata said as she pointed and directed Naruto's attention to the defaced monument. Clearly something has taken place during our absence from the village. Naruto looked to see what his girlfriend was talking about. Upon seeing the monument, what the hell? Naruto remarked after seeing the mess it was in. When did this? Just then memories came flashing and merging with his mind, his and Hinata's. It was after a couple of minutes when the memory and experience flashes were absorbed and settled into their heads, giving them a more thorough understanding of the day's events inside the village walls. A minute later, Naruto started snickering before bursting into an all-out fit of laughter. You really are such a clown, Naruto-kun, Hinata remarked. I can't believe you did all this. But you hold affections for me anyway. Naruto grinned before he moved closer and kissed Hinata on her lips while still carrying her. Enjoying this kiss, Hinata kissed him back, and just as she was getting into the mood of things, Naruto. Damn it. Naruto muttered dejectedly, knowing how much trouble he was in after hearing the tone of Irika's voice. Hinata climbed down off his arms and stood back on her feet. It'll be best if you're not seen here with me, Naruto advised. Hurry on home quickly. Hinata nodded and gave Naruto a quick peck on the lips before turning and leaping off the roof and making her way down the wall and onto the ground just seconds before Irika appeared behind Naruto. The said blonde turned to face his angry Chunin-sensei. The hell? Naruto yelled. How would you be finding me? You're not escaping your punishment that easily, Naruto. Irika said. Let's go. You have a monument to thorough wash clean. Just my luck, Naruto muttered lowly as he was taken away by Irika. Should have seen how I would get myself into trouble for cutting class and everything I did. You only have yourself to blame for that, Naruto. Irika chastised. Ugh, hi, Naruto muttered. Oh, the irony. Later at the Hyuga Manor, Hinata was entering her clan's estate saying hello to all of the cadet branch members she passed by. They replied back to her as they took note that Hinata was considerably happy, more so than usual. Reaching her house, she removed her sandals and entered the house, making her way toward her room. Reaching her door, "Naruto is in trouble again, Nei-san," Hanabi stated from behind her older sister. "I'm sure you saw what he did to the Hokage monument." "Why, yes," Hinata said meekly while instinctively putting her mask back on. "I did. I was with father at the time when we caught sight on him running from the Chunins and Jounins that were covered in mixed colors of paint," Hanabi explained. "We also saw how Naruto managed to outwit and lose them without them knowing that he was still in the same spot hiding under a camouflaging cloak the entire time. The chase ended when Naruto got careless and was finally caught by her class sensei." "Was father mad?" Hinata asked as worried as possible. "Hard to say," Hanabi replied. "I couldn't read his expression or what was going through his mind at that moment. His expression was completely neutral. I will admit that I was rather impressed at how Naruto eluded the ninjas after him so skillfully long after defacing the monument underneath everyone's nose. But I still wonder what it is about Naruto that you see in him. What makes him so special to you?"
Hinata's secret.
"Yes," Hanabi insisted, wanting to hear her sister's explanation. "I'll tell you about it someday," Hinata finally said before opening her door and hurrying inside before closing it behind her. Hanabi stood there with a frown on her face. "Damn it, Nei-san," Hanabi muttered very lowly under her breath so no one would hear her. "You're still evading my questions." "Is something troubling you, Hanabi-sama?" Niji asked as he appeared behind her. Hanabi turned to see the Hyuga prodigy stand and towering over her. Not the least bit intimidated, Hanabi said to her older cousin, "Nothing for you to worry about." "Does it involve Hinata-sama's close association with this Uzumaki Naruto?" Niji asked with a knowing implication. "I told you, Niji," Hanabi said. "It's not your concern." Saying nothing further, Hanabi left the scene and went about her now business. Niji turned to Hinata's door. "Failures attracts to troublemakers," Niji said. "That's the fate predestined for Hinata-sama. Nothing will change that." With that, Niji turned and went about his business. Meanwhile, at the monument, "Hey, Naruto," Irika offered while sitting on top of the head representing Sandane. "If you finish cleaning the monument in a timely manner, I'll treat you to ramen at Ichiraku." "Great." Naruto cheered with renewed enthusiasm while standing on the scaffold. "I'll have this monument clean in no time." Irika was happy to seeing Naruto's expression change into a happier one. But deep down, Irika still wondered what triggered Naruto to question what really happened the night Kyuubi was defeated. Irika could only wonder. For Naruto, "I may be stuck with this cleaning chore," Naruto thought, but in the long run, Naruto thought back to when he was passionately kissing a wet and soaked Hinata in the river earlier that day. His smile grew ever so wide. "It was sure as hell was worth it," Naruto concluded happily, "and I'll get free ramen as an added bonus too." Though Naruto's planned cut day backfired to some degree, he still was able to come out the winner in more ways than one with Hinata officially becoming his girlfriend. The Genin exams is tomorrow for everyone, but how will everyone react when they learn that Hinata and Naruto are officially boyfriend and girlfriend? How will Sasuke react when he finds out? Find out what happens next time. Chapter 7. The Genin Exams. A/N. Masamune X23. Thanks for your supporting recommendations and help with the story. I really appreciate it. Now, with that said, here's the next chapter. A pregnant young woman in her early to mid-20s with long red hair wearing a beige strap dress and blue short-sleeve shirt was walking through a large house, making her way into the kitchen. Entering the kitchen, she came and found a blonde spiked-haired man clearly the same age as her dressed in jounin pants and shirt without his jounin vest sitting at the table in the kitchen reading a green-colored book. There was no mistake that he looked indulged in what he was reading. "Minato-kun," a sweet feminine voice called out as the approaching female entered the kitchen. "We have company, Databane." The man turned to see who the figure was. Putting the book down, Minato turned to smile at the figure Kushina kindly invited inside. "Jiraiya-sensei," Minato greeted. "It's great to see you again. This book you wrote was a great read." "Yeah," Jiraiya said skeptically, "but my book didn't make that great of success on sales in the market." That's too bad. Minato replied, "This book, The Gutsy Ninja, was really terrific. I love how the protagonist, despite all oppositions, kept fighting and persevering with no desire of ever giving up on anything, determined to meet success until he finally accomplished what he sought to do." True, Jiraiya contemplated, but I think I'll sex things up a bit in my new books. I'm sure I'll have better success if I do that. Still Jiraiya-sensei. Minato smiled brightly. The lead character of this book is someone I'd like for my son to turn out as. In fact, Kushina and I were hoping we could have your permission to name our unborn son after the lead character of your book. Are you really sure you want to do that? Jiraiya asked in disbelief. I mean, I only came up with that name while eating a bowl of ramen. Though if you did name your son after the character of my book, I guess that would make me his godfather, right? It's a beautiful name, Databane. Kushina agreed with Minato. I'd love for our son to have and bear that name. Nadash. An alarm clock suddenly went off. Naruto's bedroom. Naruto groaned with the loud sound of his alarm clock going off, giving him a loud awakening. Ugh, Naruto groaned. Aw man, I've been having one of those dreams again. Naruto stretched and looked at his alarm clock. 5:50 a.m., Naruto said. 2 hours before the academy starts and the Genin exams. That's enough time for me to clean myself and do my routine exercises. The blonde wasted no time in getting himself cleaned, dressed up, and getting something to eat before. While having his breakfast, Naruto thought back to the dreams he had been having recently. Lately, he started having dreams of Jiraiya, Yondaime, and a certain beautiful woman with really long red hair named Kushina, who clearly was involved with Yondaime, even being pregnant with a son for him. Strange, Naruto thought. There was no mention of Minato ever being married or that his wife was ever pregnant for him. But those dreams looked and felt so real. I was even able to smell the environment. Their voices and that of Jiraiya's, and all these other faces and voices I've been hearing in my dreams. And why I having these dreams and visions? I hope I'm not losing it, The Gutsy Ninja. I wonder if such a book exists, and if Yondaime really did name his supposed son after the lead character of that book. In my dream, it was said that it was Jiraiya's first book. Things are really getting weirder in my life. And that woman Kushina, she even talked like me. Databane, or is it that I talk like? Naruto thought about the possibility of what his recent dreams could mean. No way. I mean, it can't be possible. Can it? But what if it is? For the past number of nights, Naruto started having dreams of experiences and memories that clearly weren't his own. Since then, he had been trying to make sense of what was happening to him. He had yet to tell Hinata about it, knowing that she too wouldn't be able to make sense of it at all either. For the time being, Naruto decided to deal and handle the matter on his own, without getting others involved. Putting that matter off to the side for now, Naruto got up from his seat and made his out through the balcony after closing the door behind him. Leaping off the balcony, Naruto ran up the walls of a nearby building and started leaping from roof to his next destination. Meanwhile, Hinata was up and ready to leave. She was at the front entrance, putting her sandals on when, "You're on your way out to the academy this early in the morning, Hinata," Hayashi said as he approached and stood behind her. Hinata, having placed her sandals on, turned to her father. "Yes," Hinata replied. "Today is the Genin exams, and I want to be at my best for when I take them today, father. After today, when I passed the exams, and received my head protector bearing our village's crest, I will be acknowledged as an adult, not a child. I'm leaving early so I can go and be better prepare myself physically and mentally before I earn and take my place among the ranks of the ninjas of our community." Hayashi nodded in approval. "You spoke like a true heiress, Hinata. Very well then. I'll allow you to leave and prepare for the Genin exams." "Thank you, father," Hinata said before turned and leaving the house. Just as she was about to go through the door, "When you see Naruto," Hayashi said with a surprisingly serious tone, "deliver this message for me." "What message, father?" Hinata asked a bit worriedly. "Tell him that he too better not fail the Genin exams," Hayashi said. "Inform him that his failure will reflect badly on both you and me." "How could his supposed failure reflect poorly on you, father?" Hinata asked, wanting to know where her father was going with what he was saying. I allowed him to associate with you and our clan over the years, and never once did I object to him being seen with us despite his mischievous, yet entertaining actions towards the ninjas and the rest of the populace. The way I've seen him handle and escape the various ranked ninjas he targets with his infamous pranks makes it very clear that Naruto has potential to be a most promising ninja if his skills in setting traps and being an escape artist can be properly honed and strengthened. And I've seen how your time with him has strengthened you too, Hinata, and I don't need my Byakugan to see that. Though there's still room for improvement. Hinata had to fight hard to keep a calm composure. She never heard her father talk so highly of Naruto before, nor had she heard her father gave her such needed encouragement. She felt so very happy and excited, and her confidence was only growing stronger as a result. Part of her even wanted to run up and hug her father for just those words alone. Hayashi cleared his throat and returned back his normal demeanor. Just tell Naruto to do his best and don't mention to him what I said to you just now. Turned and walked off. I don't want him thinking that I'm going soft. I'm not the Sandaime Hokage. Hinata stifled a giggle that escaped from her mouth. It was more than evident that her father had already taken a liking to Naruto over the years ago, though he didn't want Naruto to know that, at least for now. With a new vigor, Hinata made her way out of her clan's estate and hurried to her next destination. A little later, Naruto was sitting on top of the Hokage monument, on the head that represented Yondaime. Presently, he was in a meditating stance as he was facing and watching the gradually rising sun ascending over the horizon of Konoha, which slowly brightened the darkened skies. As he sat there, another figure quietly approached him from behind. Reaching him, the figure knelt down and planted a kiss on his right cheek. Naruto's eyes snapped open to see a smiling Hinata facing him. "Good morning, my moon's eye spring rabbit," Naruto greeted as he pulled Hinata down onto his lap and kissed her hotly. The Hyuga heiress embraced and kissed Naruto back with the same amount of passion. A minute later, they reluctantly pulled their lips away to catch their breaths. "Did you wait long for me?" Hinata asked. "Not really," Naruto said. "Waiting for you never takes long at all, because you'll always chase after me, wanting to overtake me." "Naruto-kun." Hinata giggled as she snuggled deeper into his embrace before resting her head on his left shoulder. "Father gave me a serious message that he wanted me to relay to you," Hinata said with a collective tone. Curious, Naruto asked, "What did he say?" "Don't fail the Genin exams," Hinata answered. "He made it clear that your failure will reflect poorly on both him and me." "I'm touched," Naruto grinned widely. "Looks like your old man is taking a liking to me as part of the family. I'd hate to see what he'd do if you actually do fail the Genin exams today, Naruto-kun," Hinata remarked. "I know neither of us would like what he'd do." "With everything we trained and went through over the years," Naruto said, "I'd be ashamed if I actually failed for real dash." "You did before," Hinata pointed out as she cut him off. "A year ago, in fact." Naruto's happy expression turned into a frown upon being reminded of last's event when he attempted the Genin exams a little after Niji's class passed the exams. The other jutsus Naruto was able to perform, but his worst jutsu, creating a basic bushin, cost him his promotion to Genin. "You still have trouble creating a simple bushin," Hinata pointed out. "Even with your special seals, you put out a lot of chakra." "I know," Naruto sighed and acknowledged. "Iruka-sensei will fail you again just for that alone," Hinata said with concern. "You saw that for yourself last year when you attempted to become a Genin a year earlier, and he was rather adamant about not allowing you to become a Genin because of that." "His reasoning is senseless," Naruto remarked. "I've seen others become Genins despite handicaps worse than my own, like your cousin's teammate, the one called Rock Lee. He can't use ninjutsu, and yet that handicap didn't prevent him from becoming a Genin. And if Iruka-sensei thinks he can hold me back again from becoming a Genin because of my inborn handicap, I'll just kick his ass in front of everyone. Consequences be damned." "Just promise that you'll do your best and become a Genin with me," Hinata requested. "Don't worry," Naruto assured. "Besides, I already have a plan in passing the exams this time. Trust me, I learned from last year's blunder, and I won't make the same mistake twice. Just leave it to me." Confident in his words, Hinata relaxed and watched the sunrise with him, while still sitting on his lap and in his embrace. "Shouldn't we be preparing for the exams, my moon's spring rabbit?" Naruto asked. "Being here with you like this for moral support is all the preparation I need." Hinata replied, "I'm confident that we'll become gens together." Naruto leaned down and kissed her again. Later, everyone was making their way to the academy. The senior class was up and ready for the genin exams and confident in passing and becoming full-fledged ninjas. Some had visions of prestige and exciting thrill-filled adventures, while others thought that after becoming ninjas, they'll earn the approval, liking, and acknowledgement of others, or of one Uchiha in particular. Well, for such ones, reality was going to prove to be a cruel master and teacher. Soon, Hinata and Naruto entered the class hand in hand with their fingers entwined together. Sasuke caught sight of them like everyone else, and the sight of them being together and displaying such irrefutable closeness had always left a displeased frown on Sasuke's face. "I know that they're real close," Sasuke admitted to himself, "but that doesn't mean that I don't stand a chance. I can still fight to gain and win her acceptance and acknowledgement of me." It's only a matter of time before she opens her eyes and sees the truth about the dobe. A few of the girls in class saw how Sasuke was eyeing Hinata, and it served to sadden them to see how Sasuke never once gave them such a look. Some wanted to hate Hinata for it, but they all knew that Hinata didn't do anything to cause Sasuke to like her that much, and everyone knew that the Hyuga heiress only had eyes on the dead last of their class for reasons they and everyone else couldn't understand. Shikamaru looked at Sasuke and saw the look in his contemplating expression. "Troublesome," Shikamaru commented with Chuji. Shino and Kiba gather next to him. Nothing has changed with him. He still has eyes solely on the Hyuga heiress. "Ironic, really," Shino remarked. "How all these girls are willing to do anything for Sasuke's attention, while the one girl he has his sights on wishes for none of it." Naruto and Hinata took their seats next to each other. The four boys looked to see Sasuke move from his seat and head over to where Hinata and Naruto were. "This ought to be interesting," Kiba remarked. "Hinata," Sasuke greeted. "Today begins the genin exams? I trust that you're prepared for them." "Why, yes, Sasuke-san," Hinata replied. "I'm confident in my abilities to pass." "I was told that after becoming genins," Sasuke explained, "that all of us will be divided into teams. Hopefully we'll be part of same team, with whoever else will be on our team. If we're paired together, I'll be sure to help you get stronger and improve, and likewise you can help me as we advance together." "Funny, Sasuke-kun," Naruto retorted mockingly. "I was hoping for the same thing too. The only difference is that I'll be sure to keep you in your place and to keep your hands off." "I knew this would be interesting," Kiba remarked as Naruto and Sasuke gave dirty looks to each other. Some in the class were watching the scene between the two boys. "It is true, though," Naruto admitted, "that Hinata-chan won't end up being on the same team with me." Naruto had already explained to her the reasons behind why they wouldn't be paired on the same genin team. She accepted it despite her disappointment. Sasuke grinned, believing that Naruto was willing to admit defeat before the Uchiha could capitalize on it. "But what's also true," Naruto continued, "is that she won't end up being on the same team with you either, team. Of that I'm most certain." What bothered the others in class that were listening to their conversation was how Naruto knew about the things he was talking about. Still, with a confident smirk, Sasuke replied, "We'll see about that dope." "There's nothing to see to," Naruto said. "I already told you it's not going to happen, and I know why it's not going to." "And what possible reasons could there be?" Sasuke asked. "Hinata and I are both from clans with strong jujutsus. A team with both her and myself together would be rather formidable. What reason could there be that she and I wouldn't be paired together?" Naruto smiled. "I could tell you, but I think it'll be more fun for you and everyone else to find out why after the genin exams are over when the team pairing begins. That way, I can have the sweet memory of seeing that look on your face when you're forced to acknowledge that everything I told you today was true." There is no mistake that Naruto knew something about the genin pairing system that he refused to tell everyone about. It irritated Sasuke to no end that Naruto somehow knew that neither he nor Naruto himself was going to be paired with Hinata on their team. Regardless, Sasuke inwardly kept some line of hope open that Naruto would be proven wrong. A minute later, Iruka entered the class. That signaled for everyone to take their seats. Good morning, everyone, Irika greeted. Today will prove to be one of the most important days of your life. Very soon, all of you will be taking the Genin exams, and upon passing you all will be taking the first step in establishing your shinobi careers as the defenders of our village. I know many of you are excited about this, but I advise all of you take this day very serious. The Genin exams will consist of a couple of exams testing your skills that will be given by both Mizuki and myself. If you fail, don't take it that you didn't have what it took to become full-fledged shinobis, but rather take that failure as a learning experience to help you grow stronger and improve from before. That's cool and all Irika-sensei, Naruto replied, but can we get the Genin exams started already? In a hurry to fail the Genin exams again, Naruto, Kiba taunted, causing the others in the class to snicker, while other laughed. Go chase a cat, you ass sniffing mutt, Naruto retorted. What was that? Kiba retorted back. That's enough out of you two, Irika said sternly. I will not condone this kind of behavior during the Genin exams. Act the part as profession ninja of Konoha, or I'll disqualify you both.
Got it.
Neither boy said anything, but gave a small nod. Now let's get this exam started, Irika said. A long while later, after everyone had passed the written portion of the Genin exams, then came the practical part of it. Naruto stood online and waited for his turn after everyone else went. Typical, Naruto muttered to himself, being made to go last again. Don't worry, Naruto-kun, Hinata assured, wearing her new head protector around her neck. Your turn will soon come up and you'll be given a shot to pass the Genin exams this time around. Okay, Naruto, Irika said after arriving at Naruto's name. Here I go. Naruto grinned as he stepped forward. Being the last one, everyone watched and waited to see how Naruto would do this time around. Some expected him to fail again and repeat the class with Irika. Much to Irika's surprise, everyone in his class so far passed the exam, and of course, Sasuke passed the exam with a flawless score. Now Naruto, Irika instructed, perform Kawarimi, Henge, and Bushin no Jutsu. And if you so much as attempt the Oiroke no Jutsu of yours, I'll instantly fail you. This is stupid, Naruto complained. You always have me attempt a jutsu that you yourself know I can't perform, and little to no help was offered to help me in that regard. Naruto, Irika instructed, these are basic jutsus that those of your level should have the capability to execute. There are other jutsus that are far more advanced and complex than these, and if you can't even perform the basic types at your current level, you have no ability to use the more advanced versions dash. Thus your career as a ninja will never leave the floor, one student interjected. If it ever starts at all, another mocked. Quiet, Irika rebuked. I don't recall asking for any of your input on the matter. Don't let the fact that the rest of you are now Genins go to your heads. Being ninjas now mean that you're no longer looked at as children but as adults of this village, and all of you can now be held accountable before the Hokage himself on any charges brought up against you, even by me. That means that you all can be given judicial judgment and sentenced by the Hokage if you're found guilty of whatever charges were raised against you. Is that understood? Needless to say, everyone gulped and nodded, seeing the full weight of Irika's words. A sudden reality that they were now forced to acknowledge. Naruto and Hinata were already aware of that fact, so there was no point in them showing the same expression of shock from Irika's truthful words. Turning back to Naruto, now Naruto, Irika said, perform the jutsus as instructed. I got a better idea, Naruto said. Bushin no Jutsu is ineffective for me. Therefore, I'll resort to using something else in its place. And I'll combine that with Henge. Puzzled, Irika asked, what do you dash? Kage Bushin no Jutsu, Naruto said. Henge. A burst of white smoke came forth from Naruto, temporarily blocking everyone's sight. When the smoke finally cleared, everyone saw standing in front of the class Hinata and Sakura with Sasuke standing off to the side as though he wasn't paying attention to them. What the? Irika and Mizuki said simultaneously. Everyone looked in front of them class to see what was going on. Kage Bushin no Jutsu, Shikamaru repeated. I never heard of such a jutsu before. Neither have I, Chuji added. That's because it's a B-class Jounin level Kenjutsu, Irika explained, And unlike Bushin no Jutsu, Kage Bushin no Jutsu creates solid clones with their own chakra coil systems. But how and when did Naruto learn it? Repeat that again, Sasuke requested as though what he heard was a lie. A B-class Jounin level Kenjutsu? Why weren't we ever taught that? Because to perform such a Kenjutsu requires a large amount of chakra, Mizuki explained. Attempting such a jutsu without the required chakra would kill you instantly from chakra exhaustion alone. Creating just one Kagebushin is enough to drain more than half of one's chakra. And yet the Dobe learned this jutsu. Sasuke replied in disbelief. But from whom? Ino asked. That's not important, said Hinata from in front of the class, catching everyone's attention. We ninjas are entitled to our own secrets, aren't we? And who here tells everything about ourselves and hidden abilities? Hinata looked like she was about to leave when, "Hey Hinata," Sakura called out. "Not that I'm complaining about you not going after my Sasuke-kun, but I must ask something that I'd like to understand from you." "And what might that be?" Hinata asked innocently. "What is it that you could possibly see in Naruto that you don't see in Sasuke-kun?" Sakura asked. "I mean, Sasuke-kun is a born genius, the top student in our class, and is the total opposite of Naruto and a whole bunch of stuff." "Naruto-kun does have his good points, Sakura-sen," Hinata defended. "I mean, he dash." "Let's be real, Hinata," Sakura cut her off with an unconvinced tone. "Naruto is a known troublemaker, and he isn't all that bright. Just look at last year's event when he failed the Genin exams in his attempt to graduate a year early before the rest of us. I bet if Sasuke-kun attempted to do what Naruto did, he would have passed and graduated. But wouldn't that mean that he would have become a Genin and not in class with you anymore?" Hinata pointed out. Sakura was caught off guard by Hinata's words and logic, but she didn't let that deter her. Sasuke, in the meantime, was off to the side, seemingly not paying attention to the girls' conversation. Everyone in the class was watching this mock scene of Hinata and Sakura play out, believing that a conversation like this was actually possible considering the characteristics of both girls and Sasuke. Some in the class were snickering at how Naruto was making fun of himself while having his transformed clones play the roles of Hinata, Sakura, and Sasuke most convincingly. "Honestly," Irika admitted under his breath, "I can see this happening. One would actually think that it was actually those three in front of the class," Shino commented. "I know," Ino agreed. "Naruto got forehead girls' behavior down pat to the T. At least Naruto is willing to admit that Sasuke-kun is better than he is," one girl remarked. "I wouldn't say that," Shikamaru replied in Naruto's defense. "Combining Kagebushin with Henge is no easy feat. If it were anyone else in this class, we'd either be unconscious or dead from exhausting all of our chakra." "HN," Sasuke grunted in front of the class as he turned to face the class. "What would you know, Shikamaru? The dope can't even do a simple Bushin no Jutsu, let alone pass any of Irika-sensei's exams." Like Sasuke-kun said, Sakura added, "When it comes to skills, smarts, abilities, and physique, Sasuke-kun is gifted in practically everything." I wouldn't agree with you on that, Sakura-san," Hinata interjected. "There are special things that Naruto-kun is surprisingly endowed with other than massive stamina, chakra, and a strong will to never give up. That's all that the dobe has going for him." Sasuke replied, "I can't see what's so special about those things." "You're wrong," Hinata defended before a hot blush appeared on her face. "Naruto-kun is endowed in a most unique way that far exceeds you, Sasuke. Of this, I'm most certain." "How can you be Hinata?" Sakura asked. "How can you be so sure and confident in what you're saying?" "That's because," Hinata said with a small smile, "I have Byakugan." With that, Hinata turned and exited the class, leaving Sakura and Sasuke to that about what they just heard. It wasn't long until they read between the lines. "Because she has Byakuga, HUH," Sakura retorted with a contorted expression. "Hey, wait a minute. Come back here. What you implying about my Sasuke-kun?" Sakura ran out of the room in pursuit of Hinata, leaving Sasuke to stand there in utter disbelief at what Hinata was saying. By this time, all of the boys except Sasuke were in tears, laughing at the implications of Hinata's words. Shino, though not among the laughing boys, had raised eyebrows upon understanding the situation being played out. Sasuke, however, was seething in rage, and the girls didn't know what to think. But it didn't end there. Sasuke looked down at his pants and pulled both the front of it and his underwear open enough for him to take a good look at his package with a questionable facial expression. This caused the other boys in class to laugh harder. Some had doubled over by this point, and others were banging their desks with their fists from the sheer intensity of their laughter. Releasing his pants and underwear, Sasuke went over to the desk and picked up a 1-foot ruler that was resting on top of the desk. "I'm going to go measure it," Sasuke decided as he turned and exited the class with the ruler in hand. That caused some of the still laughing boys to fall off their seats as their laughter grew louder. Kiba, Chuji, Shikamaru, and a few others were struggling to catch their breaths as their sides started hurting from the amount of laughter coming out of them. The girls turned to look at Sasuke and saw the look at intense anger fuming from his expression. "Hinata," one of the girls asked in bewilderment, "is what was said really true about Sasuke-kun?" Hinata sighed at the stunt Naruto just pulled. "I never pulled such a stunt. Therefore, I have no knowledge of Sasuke's anatomy." Hinata, though, was more annoyed that her boyfriend used her bloodline limit as reference to deliver the brutal punchline to Sasuke's pride. Still, the same girl insisted, "Do you think you could do me a favor and see if Sasuke-kun is really packing a nice size package?" "Please," Hinata replied with a tone that showed both annoyance and disinterest. "Don't ask me to use my bloodline for something like that." Just then, Naruto walked into the class and saw the scene before him. "Hey," Naruto asked, acting like he wasn't aware of anything that took place in class. "What did I miss? Why is everyone laughing?" Naruto looked at Sasuke, and murder was the look Sasuke gave him. "What's wrong with you, Sasuke?" Naruto asked as if he was clueless to the situation. "What's with that damn look you're giving me? By the way, I found this ruler in the bathroom. I didn't know what you were using it for after you left it there on the sink, but I made sure to thoroughly wash it before bringing it back to you." "I'll kill you," Sakura screeched with massive bloodlust as she, Ino, and several other girls rushed at Naruto. Everyone cringed at the vicious beating Naruto was getting. "Damn," Kiba replied, calming down from his long laughter. "I hadn't had a good laugh like that in a long time. But I'd hate to be in Naruto's shoes right now, receiving the girl's monstrous rage and beating." "Me too," a voice replied from behind. Everyone turned to see Naruto standing behind them with his hands in his pocket. "I don't think that practice dummy deserves such vicious brutality from our supposed future kunoichis," Naruto remarked. Sakura and the other girls looked to see that the Naruto they were beating up was in fact a life-size target practice dummy dressed in the same clothes as Naruto. But an added feature to this dummy was a note taped on its chest that read, "Fangirl Anger Release Management Plushie." I switched and substituted with that dummy seconds before the girls a chance to hit me. Naruto grinned with a huge smile on his face. Their reaction was so predictable. "He's mocking us and Sasuke-kun." Ino growled as she threw the dummy to the floor. "You girls only have yourselves to blame for letting your guards down and becoming easy targets for me," Naruto replied. Mizuki was stifling his own laughter while Iruka was shaking his head at everything that played out. Naruto, in the meantime, went over and gave a folded note to Hinata. Looking at the note, Hinata opened and read the note to herself. Her face became darkened red upon reading the poetry Naruto wrote. In the note, it read, "I passed all of Iruka-sensei's stupid tests, all the while dreaming of your splendid breasts. Knowing that you above all else have the hottest ass. Let's soon meet up after class." "And Naruto-kun," Hinata remarked, What am I going to do with you?" "I can give you some suggestions," Naruto replied with his smile turning perverted with the blush on Hinata's face turning darker. A piece of chalk was thrown at Naruto's direction, hitting him upside the head. "Damn it, Iruka-sensei," Naruto cursed as he rubbed his head. That was uncalled for. Sasuke scowled at how Naruto openly flirted with Hinata in front of everyone moments after pulling that stunt that insulted him and Sakura, but more so him, he felt. "That's enough jokes out of you, Naruto," Iruka said with his anything but amused frown ever present on his face. "Despite the crude jokes behind your performance, you performed the required jutsus, and surprisingly a B-class ninjutsu that no one else in this class can execute." No one else but Hinata-chan, Naruto thought to himself. What I'd like to know is how you learned that jutsu, Naruto, Sasuke asked. We're ninjas, Naruto replied, and we're entitled to keep certain secrets to ourselves while keeping certain bodies of people in the dark about things. It's what gives us our trump cards in the shinobi world. Therefore, I'm not obligated to tell any of you anything. Sasuke wasn't pleased to hear that from him, as he wanted to find out about how Naruto was able to secretly learn and master a Jounin-level Kenjutsu. You came a long way, Naruto, Iruka said with a brotherly smile, and you made very good improvements. You passed. Iruka handed Naruto his head protector and watched as Naruto tied it around his head with pride. Everyone was expecting Naruto to start running and jumping around the room like an idiot, but that didn't happen. This is sweet, Naruto cheered. This is just another accomplished milestone in fulfilling my dreams of becoming Hokage. You did it, Naruto-kun, Hinata smiled. Just like I knew you could. Tell that to your old man when we see him later, Hinata-chan. Naruto grinned. Everyone back to your seats, please, Iruka instructed. Sakura and the other girls did as they were told while shooting glares at Naruto's direction. Mizuki went and retrieved the practice dummy and set it aside at the front left corner of the classroom. As of today, Iruka said, you all are official genins, full-fledged ninjas of our village. With this position, no one in the shinobi world will look or regard you as children but as adults, and with that, you all will be treated as such. Take your role and responsibilities as ninjas serious, as you all now represent our village in its entirety. Uchiha Sasuke, being the top student and graduate, is hereby this graduating class's Rookie of the Year. Uzumaki Naruto, being our student with the lowest grades, is this graduating class's dead last. Whatever, Naruto shrugged. Such titles mean nothing to me. How coarse someone like you would say that, one of the girls retorted. But I bet you'd be acting different if you were elected to be our class's Rookie of the Year. Quiet, Iruka berated. Both of you. Despite the difference in academic statuses, all of you are still in the same ninja ranks, and it'll be up to all of you individually to climb the ninja ranks and improve as you move up in your careers. But as for today, congratulations on your success in becoming the new additions to our ninja force. Later, as everyone was leaving the classroom, Naruto, Mizuki requested, may I have a minute of your time with you? Sure, Mizuki-sensei. Naruto complied before turning to Hinata. I'll catch up with you. I'm sure I won't take long. All right, Hinata said. I'll be outside waiting for you. With that, Hinata left with the rest of the class. Come with me, Naruto, Mizuki instructed as he led Naruto to the teacher's lounge. Upon entering, they found the room empty. The two went in and closed the door behind them. So, what's the deal, Mizuki-sensei? Naruto asked. First off, Mizuki started, I want to say that you did well in your performance during the Genin exams and passing all of the required tests. I was sure you passed this time in spite of Iruka's doubts about it. Hey, I learned from my past mistakes, Naruto replied. That you did, Mizuki agreed. But there's another part to this test that very few know about. It rarely practiced, and some senseis at this academy as hesitant in giving out to their students in fear of their students failing this particular and making them look back as their instructor. What test would that be? Naruto asked, curious about what Mizuki was saying. There's a special scroll kept in the Hokage Tower, Mizuki explained. The Forbidden Scroll of Sealing. This test required the participant to sneak in unnoticed into the Hokage Tower and retrieve the scroll and return back with it to the instructor. They would have to do that, Naruto asked. Why such a test be given in the first place? Naruto, Mizuki said, there are certain realities about the ninja life that I'm afraid Iruka failed to instruct you guys in. Some of your future missions will require you to sneak into other villages and retrieve certain documents or scrolls and return back with them without getting caught. Sometimes these scrolls and documents could be hidden in a daimyo's house, kage towers, clan estates, special vaults, or other means of security. To get caught during these missions to spell death for the ninja and his or her team, and trouble ultimately for the village he or she works for. This test was rarely given because too many feared that their students weren't ready for such a challenge and believed that they such be exposed to such realities too earlier on in spite of the fact that their students were now ninjas, and not people to be looked at as defenseless children. Also, This test was graded as a mission, and failure of its completion resulted in the participants being sent back to the academy. I can see why many were reluctant in giving their students such a test after their graduation, Naruto replied, but I'm not one to back down from a challenge. So, you'd like to be giving a shot in performing this test? Mizuki asked. If you succeed, you'd be giving an academic status equal to Sasuke's.
I'm in, Naruto said.
Good, Mizuki said before he explained what he wanted Naruto to do. Meanwhile, Hinata was waiting patiently outside the academy with her father and sister. Where's Naruto? Hanabi asked. Didn't he say that he wouldn't be long? I'm sure he'll be here very shortly, Hinata replied. That was what you said 10 minutes again, Hanabi shot back. A moment later, Naruto appeared through the doors and made his way over to the Hyuga family. Hey, Naruto greeted. Sorry I'm late. Mizuki-sensei really knows how to give speeches as long-winded as Iruka-sensei's, but enough about that. I see that you passed the Genin exams as my daughter had informed both me and Hanabi. Hi, she acknowledged. That's good to see. Was there ever a doubt? Naruto asked. Don't get cocky, Naruto, Hanabi said. You're still a long way before you can really prove your merit to anyone. I didn't know you cared that much about me in my dreams, Naruto remarked. My little nighttime firecracker. It's Hanabi, Hanabi retorted. Doesn't it mean fireworks? Naruto replied with a toothy smile. Firecracker? Hanabi frowned with narrowed eyes at Naruto. Naruto started calling her by that nickname only recently, and it served to irritate Hanabi to no end. Hayashi chose to ignore the both of them, already being used to how Naruto and Hanabi act around each other. You may have passed the Genin exams, Hanabi replied, but don't think for a minute that I can't put you in your place. Trust me when I say that my Jukin is more than enough to see to it. Naruto, who wasn't the least bit intimidated, went over and gestured for Hanabi to come with him as they stepped away from Hayashi and Hinata. Once a couple of feet away from them, he leaned down and whispered something into her ear, only for her alone to hear. Hanabi's expression turned chastened with reddened cheeks after hearing what Naruto told her. I'll behave, the humbled Hanabi said quietly with her head lowered towards the floor. Please, I'll behave. That's my good little nighttime firecracker, Naruto whispered as he patted Hanabi on her head before they went back over to where Hinata and Hayashi were. The two Hyugas looked at them with curious expressions. What was it you said to my daughter? Hayashi asked with a stern but interested look on his face. Nothing really, Naruto lied as he stood back up. Just silly stuff, that's all. I'm sorry I can't hang out with you today, Hinata-chan, but there's something I have to take care of. Plus there's this green book I have to look for and buy. I'll see you guys later. Hinata didn't get the chance to ask Naruto what it was that came up turned, and ran off in a hurry. I wonder what could have come up so suddenly, Hinata asked herself. What was this green book he was talking about? Whatever it is that arose so suddenly, Hayashi said. I'm sure Naruto will see to the matter accordingly. Let's be on our way home now. The two girls turned and followed their father back the Hyuga manor. While walking, Hinata turned to Hanabi, who was walking ever quietly. Hanabi, Hinata asked, what was it that Naruto-kun whispered to you? The younger girl looked away, trying to hide the blush on her face. Don't worry about it, Nei-san, Hanabi replied. It's nothing for you to be concerned with. From the look on Hanabi's face and her reddened cheeks, it was clear that she was being blackmailed by Naruto, and whatever it was that Naruto had on her, she clearly didn't want to talk about it, let alone have anyone else know about it. Naruto and the rest of the class passed the Genin exams, but things are only getting started. What reasons could Naruto know behind why neither he nor Sasuke will be paired with Hinata during the formations of the new Genin teams? What's the true motive behind Mizuki giving Naruto this secret test? And what blackmailing material does Naruto have on Hanabi that she doesn't want others to know about? See what happens next time. Chapter 8. Roots. That afternoon, Naruto was currently in his apartment reading of the old green book he managed to buy from the bookstore. He managed to escape being overcharged by the storekeeper by using a henge of a common villager. The storekeeper fell for the jutsu and gave the book to Naruto for a decently low price, since book didn't sell much at all. In fact, the owner even forgot. He even had the book in stock. After hurrying to his apartment, Naruto started reading the book and was shocked to hide out what the main protagonist's name was. Naruto, Naruto said in surprise. His name was Naruto? For the next 3 hours, Naruto read the book, and as he did, he thought back to that dream he recently had. The lead character of this book is someone I'd like for my son to turn out as. In fact, Kushina and I were hoping we could have your permission to name our unborn son after the lead character of your book. Are you really sure you want to do that? Jiraiya asked in disbelief. I mean, I only came up with that name while eating a bowl of ramen. Though if you did name your son after the character of my book, I guess that would make me his godfather, right? It's a beautiful name, Databane. Kushina agreed with Minato. I'd love for our son to have and bear that name. Nadash. Naruto, Naruto said. In my dream, she was about to say Naruto. Right before my alarm went off. This can't be by chance that I knew the existence and name of this book from that one dream, and the fact that the lead character and I have the same name. If Minato said that he and Kushina wanted to name their unborn son after the main protagonist, that would mean that. The green book fell from Naruto's hand as a huge revelation dawned on him all at once. When he thought about it and pieced everything together, from Kushina's mannerism in her speech and behavior to how he possessed an uncanny resemblance to Minato for reason everyone else failed horribly to pay attention to, everything started making sense. That would make me their son, Naruto realized. The son of Minato and Kushina. I'm the son that Konoha's beloved Yondaime. Naruto paused for a moment to think about something else that dawned on him. He thought back to how since the time of his days in the orphanage how his life was, from how he was mistreated by caretakers of the orphanage until they kicked him out to fend for himself as a homeless 5-year-old, from how he was cruelly treated by the ninjas, villagers, and children as the scorned outcast, from recently finding out the village's darkest secret about himself that no one else told him. It all started adding up. The more Naruto thought about it, searing rage and hate started rising within his soul, a hateful rage he in his entire life never felt before as bloodlust started pouring out by truckloads as his canines grew into sharp fangs with his nails changing into razor-sharp claws. His whisker-marked cheeks started becoming more feral as his ocean blue eyes started turned blood red with cat's eye-slit for pupils. A red chakra aura started forming around his body, adding more of its influence into Naruto's transformation. I'm here for you, Naruto-kun, a voice said in his mind. Naruto calmed down upon hearing that beloved voice. Hinata-chan, Naruto said in a feral but calm tone as he saw Hinata in his mindscape. You're my closest and dearest friend and my boyfriend, Hinata said. You make me happy all the time, and I want to make you happy all the time too, as your lifelong partner. My father is fond of you, though. He does have his own way of showing it, just not openly. Hanabi is also fond and interested about you too, which is why she tries so hard to find out so much about you on her own. Those were Hinata's words to him earlier today, while they were watching the sunrise on top of the Hokage monument. Remember, her words helped to calm down his rage. Despite how his life was earlier in his life, in the end, he wasn't alone anymore. He had precious people in his life now, and they in turn allowed him to be part of their lives, the main family of the Hyuga clan of all people. You're not alone, Naruto-kun, Hinata said. I don't care about what others think of you for something that was never your fault, and I don't care what they think of me for wanting to be with you. All I care about is how I feel for you and how you feel for me. You'll always have me, and I'll always want to be with you. As your moon's eyes spring rabbit. Naruto's hateful rage subsided as he started changing back to normal. The red chakras soon vanished as well. I'm not alone, Naruto said to himself. Hinata-chan was always there for me. Her father and sister treat me kindly despite my ill-viewed reputation, and in a number of ways they treat me as part of their family. Hearing that word family coming out of his mouth caused the young teen to shed some tears. His tears, though, weren't tears of sorrow or anguish, but tears of immense joy and realization that he had been acknowledged and respected, all this by his girlfriend's father and sister. Man, I'm stupid. Naruto laughed happily with tears still coming down his face. All this time I always thought Hayashi and Hanabi merely tolerated me being around them, and Hinata. Hinata-chan told me that her father told her that my failure in the genin exams would make both him and Hinata-chan look bad. I can't believe how blind I was all this time. It's just too funny. Naruto laughed so much he dropped his anger and replaced it with feelings of happiness and inner peace. I'm fondly viewed and cared for by Hinata-chan's family, Naruto said happily. I'm not alone in this life. Naruto looked at the clock on his cabinet and saw that the evening hours were approaching. It's getting late, Naruto said. Mizuki-sensei's secret test is fast approaching. I'd better get ready for it. With new positive feelings of optimism, Naruto set out to perform his next task. Later that night, the Hokage Tower was quiet while ANBU and other ninjas were out on patrol. In all this, a figure in the shadows managed to evade and bypass all of the security put in place around the tower. The cunning figure then made his way to where his prize was being kept. Quietly racing through the hallway, the figure entered the room where his target was being kept in. As he approached the cabinet for his prize, Naruto, Hiruzen said as he stood behind Naruto. What are you doing here at this hour? Oiroke no jutsu, Naruto said as he performed his jutsu, knocking Hiruzen out in a heap of nasal blood loss. So much for stealth, Naruto said, seeing that of all people he was caught and seen by the Hokage. I'd better hurry. Going over to the cabinet, Naruto opened it and took the large scroll out and placed it on his back with the strap hanging around him. With his prize, Naruto hurried to make a quick exit out of the tower. Standing by the open window, Naruto turned to the Hokage still lying on the ground. I'm not through with you yet, Jazan, Naruto said with a neutral tone. We still have unfinished business. With that said, Naruto leaped out through the window and into the shadows of the night. Soon, Hiruzen regained consciousness and moments later recalled what happened. Damn, Hiruzen grumbled. I let my guard down again. He looked and found the cabinet opened with the forbidden scroll of sealing missing. Oh no, Hiruzen realized in bewilderment. Naruto stole the scroll.
But why?
And how did he even know about that scroll's existence? Not wasting further time, Hiruzen hurried and summoned all of his available ninjas from Chunin to Jounin, Mizuki and Irika being among them. Upon their arrival, Hiruzen briefed them on what happened while leaving out the part of him being knocked out by Naruto's jutsu. He instructed them find and bring both the scroll and Naruto back to him alive and in one piece. As the ninjas dispersed, Irika could only wonder what could have led Naruto, the same day after all his efforts to finally become a genin, to commit a treasonous act against the Hokage. Something wasn't adding up. He could only hope to find and bring back Naruto himself before anyone else found, and got to him before he did. 3 hours later, outside the village walls. During the hours Naruto was alone in the forest, he looked through the scroll he stole from the tower and opened it to see what useful jutsus he could learn and master. He found Kagebushin no jutsu among them, but he disregarded that since he already learned that jutsu. He found a few useful ones and memorized the seal sequences for them, though like Kagebushin, some of the other jutsus looked rather familiar to him. One in particular he practiced with his Kagebushins until he got the sequence and usage mastered. When he was done, he closed the scroll and tied it close in time to see a figure appear behind him. Naruto, Irika asked, standing behind the blonde genin. So, this is where you've been hiding? What were you planning to do with the forbidden scroll of seal? Irika-sensei, Naruto greeted. You made it. I thought I would have to wait longer than I was told to. What do you mean longer than you were told to? Irika asked. Mizuki-sensei told me of a rare secret test that only a few selected genin graduates are given, Naruto explained. He said that this kind of test was given in order to expose new ninjas to the true life of shinobis and the dangers that comes with it. He said that if I make it this far without getting caught for 3 hours until he arrives, I pass the test. Irika now understood what was going on and how Naruto was being used and deceived. Naruto, Irika said urgently, listen to me. We can clear things up with the Hokage if we hurry back and dash. Several kunais came flying at them. Irika managed to leap away as the kunais were aimed at him. Naruto and Irika looked to see Mizuki approaching them. Well done, Naruto, Mizuki said with a smile on his face. You actually did it. You passed the test. Now please hand over the scroll to me. Don't do it, Naruto, Irika warned. Don't give him the scroll. That test he told you about was a ruse. He deceived you into stealing the scroll for him. Naruto, Mizuki said, give me the scroll and in exchange, I'll tell you the truth behind why everyone in Konoha despises and mistreated you so much throughout your life. It's a secret that even the Hokage never told you about, though. Even Iruka knew the truth. Mizuki, Iruka yelled, that information is classified as an S-class secret. Naruto, don't listen to Dash. More kunais was thrown at Iruka. The Chunin managed to evade them, as Mizuki continued. Do you remember the story about how Yondaime killed Kyuubi? Mizuki said while fighting with Iruka. Well, it was all a lie. Yondaime never killed it because there is no way to actually kill a bijou. So before his death, he did the next best thing. Mizuki, don't, Iruka yelled. He turned the Kyuubi into you. Mizuki yelled. You are the Kyuubi that attacked Konoha and killed all those people years ago, from friends to family members to loved ones, even Iruka's parents. That's why Iruka and everyone hates you so much. That's a lie, Naruto. Iruka pleaded as he jumped and backed away from Mizuki to face Naruto. I don't dash. Iruka never got to finish when a Naruto Kagebushin appeared from behind and knocked him unconscious. The Chunin fell to the ground, leaving Naruto alone with Mizuki. Well done, Naruto, Mizuki said. Now you know the truth, as I promised to tell you. Now please, hand me that scroll. What reason is that I should trust you after I give you this scroll? Naruto asked. You're no better than the villagers of whom you speak. Mizuki saw that Naruto was debating whether or not to listen to him. Look, Naruto, Mizuki said. You don't owe this village any favors, considering how they treated you. The Sandaime failed to have you protected from the people when it was within his power to do justice against them for how they abused you. You can have them, and the Hokage lose that scroll as payback for all that they put you through. Consider it your greatest prank against them. There seemed to be an eternal moment of silence between them. After another minute, Naruto grabbed the large scroll and looked at Mizuki. If I give you the forbidden scroll, Naruto asked, what's in it for me? I'll let you learn to jutsu or two from it in return, Mizuki offered. Powerful ones. That would be a fair trade-off. But how I can stay in this village knowing that Iruka-sensei and others knows that I stole the scroll, Naruto stated. How will I explain what happened when I return to Jizan? Just tell him that Iruka tricked you into stealing the scroll for him so he could sell it to an unknown buyer, Mizuki suggested. You can add that the deal went wrong and Iruka was double-crossed by his buyer who attacked and left both you and him unconscious before escaping with the scroll. The Sandaime is too kind and soft of an old man to let severe punishment befall you if you can convince him that Iruka used and deceived you. Naruto thought about what Mizuki's words. After another minute, he made his decision and tossed the scroll towards Mizuki's direction. The traitorous Chunin ran to catch his prize. The scroll, Mizuki said hungrily. It'll finally be in my possession. Too few seconds before Mizuki caught his prize, the scroll exploded in a large explosion, catching Mizuki in its range. Mizuki was now unconscious and heavily injured and bleeding with a series of burns around his body and ninja clothes and gear with smoke coming off him. Ninpo, Naruto said coldly, Henge baka hatsu no bushin no jutsu. Naruto walked over to Mizuki and stood over him. For the record, Naruto said, I already learned a few jutsus from the scroll. One of them I used on you just now. 10 minutes later, Iruka woke up to see that he was leaned up against a tree with Naruto and Mizuki no longer in sight. Panicking, he got up to hurry after them when, I'm happy that I didn't hurt you too bad, Naruto said as Iruka turned to see him sitting next to a nearby tree. I can't say the same for Mizuki-sensei after I was through with him. Naruto, Iruka asked, Wadash. My Kagebushins are on their way to return the scroll and have Mizuki brought into Jizan. I did all this after I knocked you unconscious, and not by using Oiroke no Jutsu. Naruto interjected. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Naruto chose to be just a little humorous. Things will be cleared up with Jizan, and an explanation for everything that happened up to taking Mizuki out will be made, Naruto added. The search party for both me and the scroll will be called off. Naruto, Iruka said, about what Mizuki said to you with that false test he gave you Dash. I knew he was lying from the beginning before I did what I did, Naruto explained. I was able to see that parts of his story didn't make sense. Infiltrating a Kage tower and stealing secret documents or scrolls without getting caught, having such a test given to an inexperienced genin the same day he graduated from the academy? Such a test is ridiculous unless there was an ulterior motive. But you went along with it anyway, Iruka stated. I had to expose Mizuki somehow, Naruto shrugged. It was my word against his. Therefore, I played the role of the misled genin to bait him to expose himself as true culprit before I gave him a false forbidden scroll, which was a trap that didn't go well for him. You planned this, didn't you? Iruka realized. It's not that easy to trick a trickster, Naruto grinned. Something I had to brutally teach Mizuki firsthand. Naruto stood up and looked like he was about to leave when... Naruto, listen please. Iruka started. About Kyuubi and what happened dash. I already knew the truth, Naruto interjected. For almost a year, in fact. I'm the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi no Kurama. Kurama? Iruka asked with a confused expression. That's Kyuubi's true name, Naruto said. Don't ask how I know. I just do, along with the names of all the other 8 Bijus. There was a secret behind how Naruto found out, but he wasn't going to reveal that to Iruka. Iruka was wondering if Naruto somehow managed to open a link of communication between himself and Kyuubi. You knew the truth all along, Iruka asked in disbelief. But dash. I hinted at it yesterday in your class, Iruka-sensei, Naruto replied, when I said how I don't understand how Yondaime, a mere human, could kill such a creature like Kyuubi. When I said that story behind Kyuubi's defeat didn't add up, I was giving you hints that I already knew the truth that Yondaime sealed Kurama into me. But how did you find out? Iruka asked. Sandaime passed a law forbidding anyone from telling you or their children about what happened 13 years ago. It was done in hopes that you could live a normal life. And we all saw how well that plan went, Naruto remarked cynically. Most of the villagers, and by most the stupid ones, see me as a walking reminder of that creature. They can't see the difference between the container and the object being contained. Iruka flinched, knowing that was the irrefutable truth. How I found out that I'm a Jinchuriki, you wonder, Naruto said. A little research I did about bijus after sneaking into the shinobi library while no one noticed. I went into an area where only chunins and jounins are allowed to enter. There, I found a few books discussing facts about Jinchurikis and their bijus, the treatment of some of these Jinchurikis in foreign nations. After putting 2 and 2 together, relating the facts to my own life, it wasn't hard to make the connections clear. As the chunin stood there, he saw that in front of him wasn't the same goofy Naruto he was used to seeing in class all the time. This Naruto in front of him was an entirely different person. He was led to believe that the Naruto in front of him was the real Naruto, while the one he was so used to was nothing more than an illusion. So you're the true Naruto, Iruka said. This is who you truly are, while the one I and others are used to seeing is nothing more than an illusion you cast for everyone. Sandaime was right to suspect something about you ever since the Academy Field Day 4 years ago. I knew for a very long that you, Jizan, and others were onto me, Naruto replied, and it made holding up my illusion rather difficult. You wanted no one to know the truth about your true character, Iruka acknowledged. Not even me. I can't say I blame you. Most of us never really did earn your trust. Only Hinata-chan knows the truth, but I trust her to not reveal that until much later, and I request that you don't either, and that you continue treating me as the troublemaking dead last of our class. Why, Iruka asked perplexed, you're obviously a lot smarter and talented than you let on over the years, and I see now that you've failed many of my tests and other things at the academy on purpose. If anything, you should have been your class rookie of the year. So, why continue this charade? We're shinobis, Naruto simply replied. Deception is one of our primary weapons. If many knew what my true abilities were, they would formulate ways to counter and handle me. To lessen the chance of that happening, I play the role of the dead last and the village clown who's beneath Sasuke's level. In some unforeseen yet inadvertent way, Sasuke is my living decoy. Iruka took the time to soak in everything he was being told. It was like everything he thought he knew about Naruto was all a lie. You're a true ninja Naruto with 2 faces, Irika chuckled with admiration. A true face and a false one. You played the fool so well that we became the fools who had succumbed to your long-range illusion. But changing the subject, you said earlier that most of the villagers had mistreated you as a Jinchuriki, but not everyone. Hinata-chan learned of my status as a Jinchuriki from me only a couple of months ago, Naruto said. She's the only person I told this to. Despite that, she never changed the way she looked at me, and she said that she sees me as the hero who saves her and Konoha everyone by jailing the Bijou. The old man at Ichiraku and Ayam-chan, despite knowing that I'm a Jinchuriki, treat with kindness and never looked or treated me unfairly, like many others. Hinata's father and some from the Hyuga clan, mostly from that cadet branch part, also treat me kindly regardless of the fact that I'm a Jinchuriki. Hinata's younger sister, like many other youths her age and older, doesn't know yet, and I prefer that for now. Saving Hinata-chan from those bullies 5 years ago was the best thing I did. It led the way for her clan to gradually accept me, though some still look at me with disdain. Besides Jizan, the old man, and Ayam-chan, Hinata's clan became a family for me, and Hinata-chan is my dearest and closest best friend. These are the very factors that help me deal with the villagers' discrimination and prejudice against me for something that was never my fault. I'm happy that you have such a dear friend like Hinata in your life, Naruto. Irika said, I really do mean that. I also want you to know that even though I knew you're the Jinchuriki, I never looked at you as if you were the Kyuubi itself, but its jailer. You weren't the monster that attacked Konoha and killed of all of those people and my parents all those years ago. I know as your sensei, I've always been hard on you because I saw a lot of myself in you, to tell you the truth. I understand what it's like to be an orphan. Like you, I made lots of jokes, even if they were on me, just so I could have attention from as many people and children as I could possibly get. But it was a lonely life, and I cried many times because I had no family. Irika sighed and has lowered his head. In spite of all this, as your sensei, I failed to empathize with you, and instead I scolded you countless times, rather helping you where you needed the most help in.
Uzumaki Naruto, I'm truly sorry.
This was the first Naruto ever seen Irika apologize to him, ever so sincerely. He found no trace of hypocrisy in Irika's speech. Hey Irika-sensei, Naruto replied with his huge trademark smile. Don't worry too much about it. I still became a genin earlier today, even though you delayed me 1 year. But that's water under the bridge, and I managed to make Konoha safer with one less traitor to worry about. You did. Irika agreed. You helped make Konoha safer. I suppose I can reward you. I'm good, Naruto said. Besides, I have to get ready for tomorrow to take my ninja photo ID, and there's something personal I have to take care of before the night is over. I'll see ya. Irika was about to say something to Naruto, but the hyperactive blonde had already took off from the scene. And I used to think I had Naruto all figured out. Irika said to himself, I wonder what more I'm to find out about him. At the Hokage Tower, Hiruzen sighed after he watched the entire scene between Irika and Naruto from his crystal ball. He was happy that things didn't get out of hand and that the real traitor was exposed and stopped. Leaving his private quarters, he went to his office and sent out a message calling off the hunt for Naruto, stating that the true criminal was found and that the scroll was being returned with the criminal brought in for questioning. While in his office, Hiruzen took out his pipe and filled it with tobacco and lit it before taking a poof out of it. He exhaled the smoke from his mouth as he relaxed. His time for relaxing was cut short when Naruto appeared with both the scroll and a severely injured Mizuki being brought in by his clones. Here's the scroll, Naruto said as he entered and placed it down on the Hokage's desk and one of the many trashes of this village. His clones dropped the still unconscious Mizuki on the floor without so much of a look of remorse. Hiruzen nodded and snapped his fingers. 2 ENBU ninjas appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Take Mizuki to a Biki for questioning, Hiruzen ordered. The 2 ninjas nodded and picked up the unconscious traitor and disappeared with him. With them gone, Hiruzen turned back to Naruto. Well done in exposing and capturing a traitor in our ranks, Naruto, Hiruzen said. Though your first unofficial solo mission, I'll give you a B rank pay for it. Still, it's grievous that we have those willing to betray the will of fire this village possesses. Tell me something, Naruto asked. Who is Uzumaki Kushina? Hiruzen almost dropped his pipe from his mouth upon hearing that name being pronounced from Naruto's mouth, but his many years of experience as a ninja helped him keep his control and reaction in check. Naruto, Hiruzen asked, what are you dash? Don't play me for a fool, Jazan, Naruto interjected. She and Yondaime were married, and I so happen to be their child, correct? Naruto reached into the pocket of his orange jacket and pulled out his green book. He tossed it onto the desk next to the scroll in front of Hiruzen. They named me after the very protagonist of that book, Naruto explained. A book that was written by your student and my father sensei, Jiraiya. And if I'm correct, he's also my godfather as a result. Now, Hiruzen was nervous, very nervous. Naruto knew more than he should, Hiruzen realized, and was mentally trying to figure out how he could possibly know everything he was saying. It makes sense, really, that Yondaime, Namake's Minato, would use me as a host to contain Kyuubi no Kurama, Naruto continued. I mean, what father would ask another father to sacrifice their newborn child and their own life in the process in order to seal Kurama away? I'm sure my father, as the Yondaime, couldn't ask anyone to do something he himself wasn't willing to do with his own son. I'm sure my mother Kushina died that same day too, though I don't exactly know how, but I'm certain it wasn't through childbirth. Hiruzen knew that there was no point in hiding the truth from Naruto anymore. I want answers, Jazan, Naruto said, and I want them now. How are you did find out about your parents? Hiruzen asked. I had to do my own private investigation and research, seeing how you and no one else knew exactly how I came to be part of this village, Naruto remarked cynically. It wasn't easy, but I was able to gain access to some very special files. Plus, I found it remarkable that my date of birth corresponded to the very day and year Kyuubi no Kurama attacked Konoha. Why do you refer to Kyuubi as Kurama? Hiruzen asked. That's his true name, Naruto replied. Not Kyuubi, but Kurama. Could it be that somehow Naruto was able to establish a line of communication with the fox, which is why he knows what he knows now? Hiruzen wondered. Considering that it's Kyuubi, that possibility is highly unlikely. There must have been another way Naruto found out. I'm sure you're contemplating on how I found out my information, Naruto said. Well, you don't need to know. It's not important right now. Hiruzen stared at Naruto, but gave him no answer. I trusted you all my life, Jazan, Naruto said. I always thought of you as the kindest old man I knew. I always wondered why I was treated so badly by the populace, why I was thrown out of the orphanage when I was 5 years old when I did nothing wrong, why I was looked upon by the ninjas and villagers with intense loathing and disgust as if I was some sort of abomination, why parents would pull their children away from me and tell their children to stay away from me, why their children adapted their cruel behavior and view towards me, why I would be chased out of stores and restaurants while others overcharged me for their reluctant services, why everyone would sneer and call me Kyuubi brat or demon under their breaths, why I spent the early years of my life always going to bed crying. I couldn't understand why I was treated by the populace so cruelly, and I couldn't understand how you being the Hokage kept making excuses for such inexcusable actions against me, the son of this village's most beloved Yondaime, who was made into a Jinchuriki by his own father, and not by my choice. Hiruzen felt aged and the weight of everything that happened in Naruto's life becoming heavier on his shoulders. I never knew Naruto bottled this much anger and resentment towards me and all of Konoha, Hiruzen thought sadly himself. He hid it so well behind that smiling mask he always wore. Yondaime and I put too much faith in hoping that the villagers would eventually see Naruto as a hero jailing the Kyuubi. I kept the knowledge of your parents' identity a secret for your own protection. Both Minato and Kushina made many powerful enemies from both Kumo and IWA, enemies that would have come after you repeatedly in an endeavor to get revenge on your parents by killing you. At that time, Konoha was heavily weakened after the losses suffered from the Kyuubi's surprise attack. The only way to keep you safe was to keep your identity as Yondaime's son and descendant of the Uzumaki clan secret. Like, I couldn't keep a secret if I was taught about my family, Naruto retorted unconvinced. Now I'm hearing that my last name Uzumaki was in fact the name of a clan I never knew existed at one point in time. I was planning on telling you after you made Chunin, Hiruzen said. And what if something had happened to you before that time? Naruto shot back. Then what? Who else would have told me, if not make sure I didn't get promoted beyond Genin? Hiruzen inwardly flinched at Naruto's logical jab. In all honesty, Hiruzen never took that possibly of his death before revealing to Naruto his heritage into consideration. You had no right to keep that information about my clan and familial roots hidden from me, Naruto continued. You have any idea what it's like growing up not knowing your heritage and familial line, or if your parents really cared about you or abandoned you to fend for yourself? No, you couldn't possibly begin to understand that feeling, so don't pretend to empathize with me. I'm sorry. Hiruzen apologized while feeling worn down as he acknowledged that Naruto's respect for him dropped several notches. I know I have made mistakes. I did try to do my best, but I'm far from perfect, and some in the council back then even called for your immediate death after the sealing, which I had to completely oppose, explaining that killing you would release Kyuubi. Another person suggested that we turn you into a living weapon, which I also had to strongly oppose. When it was announced that you were the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, the one that jailed it, the ninjas and villagers, out of rage and feelings of the sorrow and loss for their loved ones and close friends, looked at you as the weakened version of the Kyuubi and called for you to be immediately executed. It almost turned into an all-out riot. I passed a law forbidding anyone under penalty of death from telling their children who knew nothing of your status as the Jinchuriki the truth about what truly happened on the night of Kyuubi's attack. And in blind faith you, and along with a few others, hoped that this would allow me to live a normal life, Naruto replied. It was your father's final wish that you be acknowledged as the hero who saves Konoha every day by jailing the Kyuubi, believing that someday you develop and find use for it in protecting Konoha, Hiruzen added. I couldn't deny Yondame's request, which he practically made on his deathbed, even though I suspected what the reactions of the populace would be. Suspected or knew? Naruto replied. Either way, I was used as scapegoat by the villagers to vent their anger and sorrow on, thinking that it would give them payback against Kurama, an act of cowardice if you ask me. All that I can say is that I'm sorry for the mistakes I, the ninjas, and the populace made, Hiruzen said. I truly did what I thought was best at the time. The populace did nothing to openly defy me, though traumatized by their grief and loss. They didn't dare try to kill you unless they themselves were looking to be immediately executed, and the same rule applied to the ninjas. The villagers obey with their lips, but disobeyed with their hearts. It was malignant civil disobedience, but I couldn't just very well force the populace against their free will to acknowledge you as one of our own unless I, or one of my loyal ninjas, stood behind them 24 hours a day. Even as Hokage, my authority and powers are limited. Naruto stared directly into Hiruzen's eyes and answered, and the mistakes of the stupid ones of this village would have cost all of you dearly if I had become a self-fulfilling prophecy in becoming the very monster everyone believes me to be. Hearing those words sent a cold chill down Hiruzen's back. It's because of Hinata-chan that I didn't become such a self-fulfilling prophecy, Naruto calmly added. Even though the old man at Ichiraku and his daughter Ayam-chan treat me kindly and allow me to eat at their establishment with no hostility towards me whatsoever, in all it was Hinata-chan who saved me from my darkness and loneliness. She sees me for me, and not as Kyuubi no Kurama, even after I told her the whole truth about my status as a Jinchuriki. I care for her, and she's very precious to me. And believe me when I say I'll battle and fight this entire village and anyone else to my death to protect her, even if that means protecting her from Yujizan. Despite his words, Hiruzen couldn't help but form a large smile on his face with a light chuckle escaping his mouth before bursting into all-out laughter, much to Naruto's surprise. And what's so funny? Naruto asked indignantly. You take me for a joke? Hiruzen calmed down to get his bearings back together. You remind me of so much of your father with that same attitude. It's scary, Hiruzen answered. He was just as protective of your mother while they were academy students growing up back then. He was, Naruto asked curiously. Like you and Hinata, Hiruzen explained. Minato and Kushina knew each other since they started the academy. Your father always had a huge crush on her, though Kushina, at first, didn't acknowledge him. Your mother was a foreigner from Yuzu no Kuni, which was once a prestigious village ruled by the Uzumaki clan, a clan once renowned and feared by other elemental nations and villages for their great seal masters. They were, Naruto asked. Maybe it's hereditary that I'm developing and mastering all of those seals then. Not that Jizan needs to know what I've been doing over the years. In fact, Hiruzen said, many of the seals we use in Konoha originated from your clan who designed and created them. What became of the Uzumaki clan? Naruto asked. Being a nation known for their powerful seal masters earned for them many enemies that feared and hated them. Hiruzen explained, Yuzu no Kuni was destroyed by other foreign nations that banded together in the effort to wipe the Uzumaki clan in its entirety. I don't know if there were any survivors besides you being their last legacy now. I see, Naruto said quietly. But before me was my mother. So what happened between her and my father back then? Kushina and Minato's romance didn't start out perfectly, even though he always had an obvious attraction to her. Like you, Naruto, your mother was treated as an outcast, but that was because she was a foreigner. Your mother, though, didn't tolerate anyone's mistreatment of her, and she would fight and beat up anyone who crossed her. Minato, though, saw past all her faults and biased views of her, and from the shadows, he'd always watched over Kushina, admiring her while in hiding from her sight. Sounds a whole lot like what Hinata-chan used to in connection with me. Naruto remarked, seeing a forming parallel between himself and Hinata with regards to his parents. One day, though, Kimo ninjas infiltrated Konoha and kidnapped your mother. Hiruzen went on. Why? Naruto asked. What did they want with my mother? There's a secret about your clan's bloodline you must know before I continue, and why Yondaime used you as the host for Kyuubi, Hiruzen said. You see, only an Uzumaki can hold Kyuubi. Anyone else would die in the attempt to become a Jinchuriki for that bijou. This is because the Uzumakis were known for their longevity, massive chakra, stamina, and endurance. You, Naruto, are the third Jinchuriki of Kyuubi. What? Naruto asked. I'm the third Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kurama? Hiruzen nodded. The first one was a woman named Uzumaki Mito. She was the wife of our late Shodaime Hokage. She used herself to seal Kyuubi away. After many years, when approaching the end of her life, a new Jinchuriki was needed before her death. Your mother had special chakra that she could form and solidify into chains strong enough to hold down Kyuubi, which was why she was chosen and brought to Konoha to become the second Jinchuriki. Naruto was shocked and speechless by that bombshell. My mother was the Jinchuriki before me, Naruto asked. She was... Hiruzen continued. Sometime later, after she became a genin, Kumo got wind of Kushina's abilities and sought to use her as their instrument. No one else was aware of Kushina going missing, but Minato did and went after her before the Kimo ninjas reached the border and single-handedly defeated her kidnappers and rescued Kushina. My father was that strong even then, Naruto asked. He loved your mother to the point that he traced her red hair deposits she dropped to the ground as a hopeful trail for our trackers, Hiruzen said. Only Minato caught onto it. Kushina fell in love with Minato ever since. Just as Minato saved your mother from her loneliness and kidnappers, Hinata saved you from your loneliness and darkness, just as you said before. Quite the parallel. Naruto stayed quietly momentarily to take in everything he was now being told. Information, though brief, he wanted to know for many years. Soon, though, he broke his silence. How did they die? Naruto asked. What were the exact circumstances? When your mother became pregnant with you, Hiruzen explained, it brought about a dangerous situation with it that threatened Konoha's safety. How so? Naruto asked. When a female Jinchuriki becomes pregnant, Hiruzen continued, their seal containing the bijou is at its weakest during childbirth. That was also the case with Uzumaki Mito after she became pregnant for Shodaime. During that critical situation and for Konoha's safety, both Mito and Kushina had to give birth outside the village in the event Kyuubi managed to escape. All preparations and Yenbyu security were made for your birth at an undisclosed chamber a good distance outside Konoha's walls. My late wife Buwaki and a young female medic were with both Minato and Kushina when Kushina went into labor. Minato was to keep the seal holding Kyuubi stabilized while Kushina gave birth to you. But something went terribly wrong during your birth and Kyuubi was released. I'm sorry to say, Naruto, but I don't know exactly what happened that led to Kyuubi's sudden escape from Kushina's seal, and both my wife and her medic assistant were killed in the process. Deep down, though, I knew foul play was involved, even though we made sure no one within Konoha's walls knew of Kushina giving birth. Were the villagers aware that my mother was a Jinchuriki? Naruto asked. Hiruzen shook his head. Her status was never disclosed to the public, so we were confident that no one knew, but we never thought about anyone outside Konoha knowing of it and knowing when she was due to give birth to you. How do you know foul play might have been involved? Naruto asked. All of the ANBU ninjas selected for the security detail were found dead, but not by Kyuubi's hands, Hiruzen explained, but through strangulation. My wife and her assistant's bodies were also found, and upon medical examination, nothing showed that their deaths were the result of Kyuubi's attack, but by the same unknown enemy who stabbed them. What happened between that enemy and Minato is unknown, but I believe Yondaime fought the attacker before turning his attention back to Kyuubi, who was wreaking havoc on the village while my ninjas and I were doing all we could to hold that bijou off. When Yondaime appeared, he summoned Gamabunta, the toad boss, and had him grabbed and hold onto Kyuubi long enough to relocate the both of them. Using the very jutsu that made him known and feared as Konoha's Yellow Flash, Hiraishin, Minato teleported both himself and Kyuubi over to the very location where you and Kushina were. A few of my ninjas and I hurry as fast as we could to follow after him once we saw how far he teleported with Kyuubi. It was a while before we arrived, but when we did, we found that Kushina, despite being fatally injured from Kyuubi release, used her remaining chakra chains to hold Kyuubi down while your father began the sealing ritual. What did you do in all this after your arrival? Naruto asked. There wasn't anything I or my ninjas could do, Hiruzen sighed. Yondaime formed a large barrier around himself, Kushina, you, and Kyuubi. It was clear that they were going to stop and seal away Kyuubi by themselves without outside interference. All we were able to do was listen and watch as things played out. Your father, through the use of an S-class Kenjutsu Ugi known as Shiki Fujin, sealed the dark half of Kyuubi's chakra into himself before using the Hack Fujin on you to seal Kyuubi away into you. Shiki Fujin, Naruto thought. I remember coming across that jutsu, with its required complicated hand sign sequence in the Forbidden Scroll earlier, but I never got to actually read up on the nature behind that jutsu. What exactly does that Kenjutsu Ugi does? Naruto asked. It summons the Shinigami, Hiruzen said, an unearthly being that's not of this world. Obviously, Naruto remarked. What's the payment for such a summoning? Is it like the other summonings we read about in class that requires a little blood payment? No, Naruto, Hiruzen replied. For that jutsu, an even heavier price is paid. Your soul is devoured by the Shinigami along with the soul of the target that's to be sealed away. Once devoured the sealer, and the sealed can never rest in peace. Instead, they suffer for eternity in the belly of the Shinigami. The souls of the sealer and the sealed are entwined in hate and are forever locked in combat. Naruto's expressions turned pale on hearing and understanding the nature of the jutsu his father used on himself. He chose to use that kind of jutsu, Naruto screeched. And everyone calls me crazy? Why didn't he just seal both halves of Kyuubi into me, seeing that my mother had the whole thing in her at one time like Uzumaki Mito? I don't know, to be honest, Hiruzen admitted. He evidently knew something we didn't and died with whatever it was he knew. So this Shinigami instantly ate my father's soul right after sealing the dark half of Kurama within my father, Naruto said. No, Hiruzen said. As Minato prepared to use the Hack Fujin to seal away the Kyuubi into you, your dying mother got weaker, enough for Kyuubi to be partially freed from her chakra chains as he aimed to kill you to prevent himself from being sealed away inside you. Your father and mother saw this and rushed to you, using themselves as human shields to protect you as Kyuubi ended up impaling the both of them with his claw as the chains around him tightened. Your parents imparted their final words to you, though I don't know what it was they said to you right before they sealed Kyuubi into you. But I do know that they died smiling, knowing you were their surviving legacy, and that they got to see you before their tragic demise. After Kyuubi was sealed into you, Yondaime deactivated the barrier seal, which allowed me and the ninjas with me to rush over to where the three of you were. Kushina, by that time, had already died in Minato's arms. Your father, with his last breaths, asked that you be acknowledged by the villagers as the hero saves them by bearing the burden of jailing the QB. He wished the very best for you even though things didn't turn out the way he had hoped. And what became of my godfather, Jiraiya? Naruto asked. Hiruzen sighed, not believing that Naruto would like what he was going to hear. He's still alive on active duty many miles outside Konoha's walls, Hiruzen explained, but he hasn't stepped foot back in Konoha for a long number of years since weeks before your birth. And he made no inquiries over my well-being, Naruto remarked. I guess being one of Konoha's famous Sanins and loyal shinobis took higher priority. Naruto, Hiruzen said, I know you must be angry at Jiraiya, but his job as Konoha's best spy master and keeping up with his large spy network left him little to no time to do things I'm sure he'd have loved to do. Besides peeking at pretty girls and writing Aika Aika Paradise books, which many of us, including you, enjoy buying and reading, Naruto shot back cynically. Being on the road all the time, lodging from place to place, having clothing, and having resources to fight off dangerous high-class enemies requires income, Hiruzen said. He also had to finance his huge spy network and take care of himself in whatever ways that worked. I guess that makes sense now that I think about it, Naruto admitted. Understand, Naruto, that it would have proven very difficult to raise and protect you while performing his job protecting Konoha from the outside, Hiruzen explained patiently. As a Jinchuriki and Minato's newborn son, you would have had a massive price tag on your head with many bounty hunters coming after you day and night. Even as a Sannin who trained your father, Jiraiya is not invincible, and he also has limits to what he can do. Naruto wanted to give a remark to everything he was being told. After so many years, he finally heard and learned many truths about his background and origins. Knowing his heritage, familial legacy, and that he's the last known survivor of a great clan and foreign nation of seal masters that Konoha owes a huge debt to, Naruto felt of a sense of completeness, joy, and peace of mind. You kept this information from me all my life, Jizan, and lied about not knowing anything about my parents, saying that it was for my own good and protection, Naruto said calmly. To be quite honest, part of me truly hates you for that, and that same part of me hates Konoha as a whole for what they've done to me. Hiruzen felt like he was stabbed through the chest by a dulled rusty kunai from hearing those words from Naruto. But for all that Naruto suffered through all his life, he felt he and Konoha deserved Naruto's hatred of them. At the same time, though, Naruto said, part of me owes you for not leaving me alone my entire life and checking up on me whenever you could. That and Hinata's affections for me, and the bonds I formed with her, her father and younger sister, are the very factors helping and saving me from being consumed by my anger and hatred. It'll be a while before I can fully forgive you, and Konoha, though I'll still respect you as Hokage. Hearing that made Hiruzen's heart feel relieved, realizing that he still had a chance to make it up to Naruto. Thank you, Hiruzen said. I will earn your forgiveness, Naruto. That's the best I can tell you. Out of curiosity, though, Naruto asked, what happened after I was put out of the orphanage even though you found a place for me to live at? I personally fired everyone that worked at the orphanage and had their child-caring licenses and other related certifications revoked. Hiruzen replied truthfully. They also spent time in jail before I was able to find suitable replacements to work at the orphanage. You did all that, Naruto remarked with a smile. Well, I guess it won't be long before I fully forgive you then. Anyway, it's been a really long night, and everything I learned tonight gave me a whole lot to think about. So I'll be on my way now. As Naruto made a quick exit from Hiruzen's sight, Naruto, Hiruzen said, now isn't the time for the truth about your backgrounds to be made known to the populace. I trust that you will not try to publicize your parentage to them for now. Even if I did, they wouldn't believe me, Naruto admitted, but he smiled brightly. But still, when the time comes, they will believe and accept me, as I will bring about a new rise to the Uzumaki clan. And in time, I will take that hat and robe from you and become this village's strongest Hokage. Naruto turned and left the aged Hokage by himself. Hiruzen sighed as he leaned back on his chair. Minato, Kushina, Hiruzen said lowly to himself, I made many mistakes. I wish I could go back in time and change. But I'm happy that Naruto's will of fire never extinguished from his heart. If he's as great as we hope him to be, Yondaime, I'm sure he'll live up to his determination and surpass all of us. At the Hyuga Manor, Hanabi was in her room dressed in her sleeping kimono. While alone in her room, Hanabi was pacing back and forth wondering how Naruto found out what she's been doing for some time now, and without him being detected. I was certain that I was careful, Hanabi whispered to herself. I made sure that no one saw me. I even used my Byakugan to make sure that no one was around. So, how did Naruto find out? The fact that Naruto was able to dodge her Byakugan worried her, and the very fact that he caught her in the act more than once frightened her. Was he spying on me? Hanabi asked herself. If so, when and how could I have failed to catch him in the act? Hanabi couldn't exactly get angry at Naruto for spying on her since she herself frequently spied on him trying to find out more about him since she was skeptic about the stretched rumors and remarks she heard about him. Despite telling Nei-san that father trained me in being able to read people, Hanabi said lowly, I got too used to Naruto's presence and let my guard down with him. I saw firsthand how he handled those jounins when they were pursuing him for vandalizing the monument. But what he caught me doing took place before that vandalism incident. The more Hanabi thought about how she failed to watch herself while moving stealthily through the night shadows to do what she's been doing unnoticed by her own father, sister, and clansmen, the more she wanted to know how Naruto was able to catch her in the act multiple times while also avoiding getting caught by her father, clansmen, and even Hinata in the process. This Sasuke and others always say that Naruto is a troublemaker, the worst student and dead last of the academy, Hanabi said, but everything I've seen and everyone he victimizes with his pranks and blackmails contradict everything they say about him. It's like no one knows the real Naruto, no one but Nei-san. That has to be one of the reasons why she evades all of my questions about Naruto. Well then, if Nei-san won't tell me what I need to know, I'll have to find out for myself and find out something on Naruto to use against him for a change. That ought to even things out between us for sure. Hanabi felt confident that she would be able to do what she said she was going to do. She made it her aim to not let Naruto have the upper hand against her. She also knew that she had to be discreet in how she would go about this. Hanabi, Hinata called out from behind the door. Are you okay in there? I heard you talking to yourself just now. Embarrassed by her careless act, Hanabi replied, I'm okay, Nei-san. I was just thinking out loud to myself. May I come in? Hinata asked. Hanabi considered dismissing her sister, but decided to allow Hinata to give her some company. She went over and unlocked the sliding door to see Hinata also dressed in her sleep kimono. Hanabi, Hinata asked with concern. You seemed troubled earlier today after what Naruto-kun told you. Do you wish to discuss it with me? Hanabi sighed at this. Controlling herself, she replied, I told you, Nei-san, it's all right.
You don't have to worry about me.
I can handle myself just fine. I'm not questioning whether or not you can, Hinata assured. Nei-san, it's late, Hanabi said. If you're here to try to get me to talk about what happened between me and Naruto earlier, please drop it. Besides, you won't tell me what makes Naruto so special to you, so I won't tell you what it was Naruto whispered to me. And you better not try to get Naruto to talk about what he that said to me either. Hinata let out a breath of defeat. All right, Hanabi, Hinata relented. I won't press the matter further. Thank you, Hanabi said. Now please, Nei-san, I'm tired and in need of much rest. I'll leave and retire for the night. Hinata said politely, sleep well. Hinata turned an exit room before sliding the door close. After a minute, Hanabi went over to the door and opened it again to make sure no one was around. Seeing that no one was there, she went back inside and closed the door back before locking it. Dimming lights down, she went over to her closet and opened her cabinet holding all of her training clothes and gear. Underneath all of her stuff was the prize she was keeping in hiding from her father, sister, and other main house members. It's safe. Hanabi smiled as she reached for the medium bottle and opened it before closing her eyes and taking small sips of the substance she stored in it, savoring its taste for every drop she sipped. Closing the bottle, she prepared to hide the bottle back in its original spot when her eyes caught sight of a note that was previously resting under the bottle. I don't recall putting that piece of paper there before, Hanabi said lowly as she opened the folded paper and read the note. Despite the darkness, the wording on the note was still legible. Sweet dreams, my little firecracker. Don't drink too much before bed. Hayashi won't approve of you being less than sober for your morning's training. Damn him. Hanabi cursed lowly under her breath while wondering how long he had been spying on her and how much more he knew about her. And on top of that, he had been in her room and went through her things and clothes without her even knowing of it. Chapter 9. Unrequited. The follow day, at the Hyuga Manor, Hinata, after bathing herself, was currently in her room, her door locked and window curtains closed. Currently, she was standing completely nude in front of her full-length mirror, looking at her reflection, showing not only her well-trained, yet still developing young teen body, but also all of the intricate seal writings that were all over her body and face from the top of her head to the sole of her feet. The Inryo Kafujin, Gravity Seal, and Chakra Sokuba Kafujin, Chakra Restraint Seal, the very seals her boyfriend gave to her personally. Between her breasts were complex seal writings in a spiral design resembling the Uzumaki insignia. This was where chakra was being fed from into the seals, and where her heart was energizing the seals. The seals themselves were glowing with chakra running through them, like blood running through veins and arteries. The level of her seals had greatly increased over the last few years she had them on her, and never once had she released or lowered the levels of her seals, and neither had Naruto. Her chakra control was stronger, and her chakra reserves, though not as large as Naruto's, became much larger than before, allowing her to perform stronger and higher levels of jutsus, and using her Byakugan for longer periods of time. Without a doubt, Hinata was far stronger, faster, smarter, and more acrobatically agile than she let on. Her skills and mastery in water manipulation was more advanced than anyone her age group in Konoha, and though she managed to combine some of her Jukin with her water affinity, she still had quite a way to go. And speaking of her Jukin, it was keenly polished and presently mid to high Jounin level without water manipulation alone. Truly, she came a long way. But to everyone else, except Naruto, she was the shy, timid, stuttering Hyuga Hinata and disappointing Hyuga clan heiress who was looked down on for not being able to learn and grow stronger in the clan's Jukin arts. It was said that her cousin Niji was a prodigy in their clan's Jukin, and some in the main house found it insulting that a member of the cadet branch house was far more advanced and learnt in their style, while the proclaimed heiress couldn't even win a match against her own younger sister. Hinata was considered a bane and disgrace as a result. If they only knew the truth, Hinata said to herself in an undertone. Part of Hinata felt bad for hiding so much about herself from everyone. Even Yuhi Kurenai wasn't aware of her true abilities, even though the young Jounin became a mother figure to Hinata. Niji would look at Hinata with hate-filled glares, demean and ridicule her whenever there was a moment he could do so while giving his misguided statements about fate. Hinata would often try to make peace with Niji, but so far all of her efforts met with failure. Life can be cruel sometimes, Hinata said lowly as she caused the seals to disappear back into her body. She then got dressed and left her room to get some breakfast to eat. On the way, she happened to see Niji walking down the hallway from the opposite direction. "Good morning, Mizan," Hinata greeted politely. "Hinata-sama," Niji acknowledged her with a neutral tone. "Did everything go alright with you and your team yesterday after training?" Hinata inquired. "You looked a little roughed up when you returned home yesterday evening." "Sake poured into my teammate Lee's food accidentally without us being aware of it at first, and he turned into an all-out Suiken, drunken fist fighter," Niji explained. "It took the combined efforts of both myself and Gai-sensei to stop and restrain Lee without hurting him before he wrecked the establishment we were eating at and brutally attacked anyone who approached him." "I see," Hinata replied meekly. "Lee must have so many hidden potential, if it took both you and Gai-sensei to at least hold him down." Niji scoffed. "Don't make such senseless and foolhardy statements, Hinata-sama. Lee is my class dead last, just like that imprudent clown Uzumaki Naruto of your class. The very fact that the main house tolerates Naruto's presence in our clan's land sickens me, and knowing that both you and Hanabi-sama are so fond of him disgusts me. Neither Lee nor Naruto can change what fate had predestined for them no more than what fate has decided for you, as being an unchanging weakling." Saying nothing further, Niji walked off from Hinata's sight and to wherever it was he was going. Hinata shook her head and sighed to herself before resuming her original course in getting herself some breakfast and putting Niji's disrespectful behavior behind her. Though she wished both she and Niji had a better relationship with each other as cousins, however, a darkened and hardened part of her really wished to humble and put Niji in his place, physically and painfully. It was her gentle nature and Naruto restricting her from revealing her true character that kept that darkened and hardened part of her nature at bay. Meanwhile, Naruto had just finished Ninja ID photo with his card finalized. Surprisingly, he wasn't in the mood for jokes like painting his hands and face with feudal war makeup for his photo shoot, though it was tempting. After his ID card was made, Hiruzen told Naruto to head to his office, so he could discuss something with him. Arriving at the office, Naruto stood in front of Hiruzen's desk. "So, what is it you wanted to see me about?" Naruto asked. Hiruzen tossed a sealed envelope at Naruto, who effortlessly caught it. "Your unofficial B-rank pay for Mizuki's capture and the return of the Forbidden Scroll," Hiruzen said. "Is that all?" Naruto asked. "No," Hiruzen replied. "There's something further I wish to discuss with you. Something I neglected to mention to you yesterday about your clan's ties with Konoha." "All right," Naruto said. "You have my full attention. I'm sure you noticed the red spiral designs that all of the ninjas of Konoha wear." "Yes," Hiruzen brought up. "What of them?" Naruto remarked. "That spiral is the official insignia of your clan, the Uzumaki clan, and of Yuzu no Kuni," Hiruzen stated. "Say what?" Naruto said. "The Senju clan, the clan that the Shodaime, Hashirama, and his brother Nidaime, Tobirama came from, had very strong bonds and ties with the Uzumaki clan," Hiruzen explained. "In fact, both clans had a common ancestor, thus they're practically cousins and brethren to each other. So close their ties to each other that Shodaime fell in love and married Uzumaki Mido and decreed as law that all Konoha ninjas wear the crest of the Uzumaki clan. The Uzumakis, too, were known for their red hair, which was basically their trademark." Amazing how this vital piece of the village's history was omitted from the Academy's lecture program, Naruto remarked. "I find it insulting that the village wears my family crest, yet scorn the surviving heir and legacy of the Uzumaki seal masters. Wouldn't Shodaime be proud to see what his people have done?" Hiruzen didn't miss the stinging sarcasm in Naruto's words and tone. "Was the Uzumaki clan truly forgotten by the villagers?" Naruto asked. "Or is it because that I'm a known Jinchuriki by the older generations that my clan's legacy, which helped build this village, was kept classified from those of the younger generation?" Hiruzen sighed. "As I told you before, both your parents and clan made powerful enemies. You being the son of Yondaime and the rightful heir of the Uzumaki clan would price a huge price tag of your head. It's rather contradictory, really, seeing that my last name is Uzumaki," Naruto emphasized. "It'll be known to many others once you start assigning me C to S-class missions." "Go straight from C to S-class," Hiruzen noted. "Aren't you sure of yourself?" "Why shouldn't I be?" Naruto shot back. "My first lifelong mission is in fact a high S-class mission that my own father, your late successor, gave me personally a mere hour after my birth. Jail Kyubi no Kitsune as its Jinchuriki while protecting Konohagakure no Sato from it. And find a way to use Kyubi's chakra to protect the village. Tell me what about that isn't S-class, documented or not. Especially since you and your unknown ninjas. I witnessed me being given this mission though I wasn't an official ninja at the time of my birth. Perhaps you can start paying me 13 years of S-class pay for my services, Jizan, which Konoha is far behind on." Hiruzen's right eye started twitching as he listened to Naruto's words. Most of it serious, while the last part he was sure was a joke to get on his nerves. 13 years of S-class pay, Hiruzen remarked as he took a puff of his pipe. "Surely, you can't be serious." Outside the office, a small youth with a white helmet and long blue scarf approached the door and quietly cracked it open enough to see Naruto and the Hokage talking to each other. The said youth held a kunai in one of his hands. "I'll get him for sure," the youth said. "He won't escape from me." Grasping his kunai, the boy rushed through the door and went straight for his target. "You're mine, Naruto," the boy yelled as he rushed at Naruto. The blonde Jinchuriki turned and sidestepped the boy to the left. "What the hell?" Naruto exclaimed as the boy passed by Naruto. Moving too fast, the boy stepped on his own long scarf and lost his balance before falling face down to the ground with an audible thud. Konohamaru, Hiruzen chided and sighed. What's the meaning of this? Konohamaru whined and rubbed his sore face after crashing to the floor. Konohamaru, Naruto questioned, and who's he exactly? My 8-year-old grandson. Hiruzen replied with a puff of his pipe. Konohamaru stood back up and turned to Naruto with his kunai pointed at the blonde. Why the hell are you trying to attack me? Naruto asked. I heard from some kunoichis how you soloed my grandfather and all of the ninjas and wannabes with him at the Ninja Academy when you were 9 years old. Konohamaru said, if I can solo you, then I have a shot at beating my grandfather. Hiruzen felt the wound in his pride widened on hearing that. He placed me on a pedestal lower than Naruto's. Hiruzen mentally groaned as he could only wonder from which one the kunoichis Konohamaru received his information. Naruto looked at the 8-year-old incredulously before smirking. His smirk turned into a snicker, which in turn turned into an all-out laughter. Naruto held onto his sides from the cramps that formed from his hard laughter. I like you, kid. Naruto laughed loudly. That's the first time anyone ever thought so highly of me to the point of believing that my defeat would mean having a shot at defeating the Hokage. After today, you scored very high marks in my book. Don't take me lightly, Naruto. Konohamaru challenged as he ran towards him again with his kunai aimed at him. This time, however, Naruto rushed at Konohamaru at a speed Konohamaru's eyes failed to see. The next thing Konohamaru knew was that Naruto was holding him firmly with his right arm twisted and pressed to his back with Naruto holding the very kunai used against him at his jugular. The boy was able to feel the cold, razor-sharp blade up against the skin of his throat. Konohamaru cringed from the pain, but trembled more so from the bloodlust that leaked from Naruto. You can't do this to me. Konohamaru whined while trying to hide his fear. I'm the Hokage's grandson. Konohamaru, Naruto said patiently, I took out a Chunin with the utmost brutality just last night for pissing me off. You think your status as the Hokage's grandson matters to me? I could care less if you were the sole grandson of the High-No Daimyo himself. Honorable grandson, the Jounin called out as he ran into the Hokage's office to see what was transpiring. After seeing the position Konohamaru was in, the Jounin looked at the one responsible. Upon seeing that it was Naruto, the Jounin gave the Jinchuriki a dirty and threatening look. Disarm yourself and release the honorable grandson this instant, the Jounin warned, or suffer the consequences. I'm in my rights, Naruto replied. He attacked first, and I merely acted on self-defense. He's telling the truth, Ebisu, Hiruzen defended. Konohamaru was at it again, hoping to catch either me or one of my ninjas by surprise. Naruto removed the kunai from Konohamaru's throat before he released him. Konohamaru turned to face Naruto. You have a long way to go before you can beat your grandfather or anyone else at his level, Naruto said before dropping the kunai at Konohamaru's feet. The boy bent down and reached for it. When he did, however, Naruto punched the back of Konohamaru's helmet hard enough to knock the boy to the ground on his face again. Ow, Konohamaru whined after feeling his face hitting the ground again. Honorable grandson, Ebisu called out as he hurried over to the youth. Hiruzen watched the scene before seeking to chastise Naruto while wondering what triggered Naruto's sudden actions. Lesson 1. Naruto said, never lower guard and eyes to an enemy that had it within his power to kill you mere moments ago before seemingly sparing you. I baited you to pick up that kunai, and you predictably fell for it, dropping your guard completely. If I were a true enemy, you'd dead now. Konohamaru looked at Naruto with a frown but gave him no retort. You dare talk like a know-it-all before the Hokage and his honorable grandson. Ebisu accused. Have some respect, brat. My respect is earned, not given freely, Naruto replied. And who are you exactly? I'm Ebisu, Ebisu said. And I'm Konohamaru's sensei. Don't look like much to me, Naruto mocked. More like another closet pervert. You insolent brat, Ebius retorted indignantly. Don't you dare insult me. Naruto shrugged and turned back to Hiruzen. I'll be seeing you whenever. Naruto went over to the balcony and leapt off of it. Landing on one of the rooftops, he dashed off away from the tower. Hiruzen stood up and walked over to the balcony where Naruto took off from. Ebisu went over to Hiruzen and apologized. My apologies, Hokage-sama. I should have been more alert in keeping Konohamaru from being struck by the QB brat. You ought to be more concerned by the fact that my grandson is no longer in your sight again, Hiruzen pointed out as both turned to see that Konohamaru was no longer in the office. In fact, he was no longer present in the building. Now where did he run off to? Ebisu hollered. Meanwhile, Naruto was making his way to his next destination, all the while thinking of what Hiruzen told him about the ties between the Senju and Uzumaki clans. Some respect my people from my mother's side of the family were given. Naruto thought, I'm going to have to change that in time and correct this village's past sins against my clan. I still wonder though how I knew all the names of those bijus. It wasn't in the Forbidden Scroll, and there was no mention of any of the Sanins knowing of their names either. While Naruto was thinking about those and other things, his eyes soon caught sight of something that didn't blend in well with the scenery of the wall. If you're going to spy and follow me, Naruto replied, at the very least, put more sincere effort into it. Konohamaru dropped the blanket sheet meant to conceal him from Naruto's sight. You're truly our strong ninja Naruto Niken, Konohamaru praised. Niken, Naruto repeated as if the title was foreign to him. No one ever called me that before. So, what do you want, Konohamaru? I want to learn from you, Konohamaru answered. I want you to become my new sensei. What? Naruto replied. Your sensei? Yeah, Konohamaru said. I heard things about you from a couple of kunoichis that said from what they saw and see in you that you have true potential to be a great ninja. Are you making that crap up just so you can try to get me to drop my guard and attack me by surprise again? Naruto asked. No, I swear it, Konohamaru hurriedly confirmed. On my honor as the future Hokage. You want to become Hokage? Naruto asked. That's right, Konohamaru said. You single-handedly defeated my grandfather years ago. Actually, Naruto muttered. I did it again recently. You did what? Konohamaru asked. Nothing, Naruto replied quickly. Since I'm said to have bested Jizan, and you wish to become Hokage like I do, why would you want me to become your so-called sensei? Don't you think that's a contradiction since we both want the same goal? What's a contradiction? Konohamaru asked with a confused look. When certain chain of events, objectives, or statements made that doesn't make sense or go together, Naruto answered. Whatever, Konohamaru replied. I want you as my new sensei because of the way you treat and view me. You're not like Ebisu-sensei or the other villagers. Really? Naruto asked. How so? Everyone's always sucking up to me, Konohamaru said with annoyance in his tone. They don't see me for me. They only see me as honorable grandson of Sandaime Hokage. It sucks always being under my grandfather's shadow and only be acknowledged just because of who I'm related to. What about this Ebisu person? Naruto inquired. He's a jounin, yes? Ebisu-sensei is always talking about knowing shortcuts to becoming Hokage, Konohamaru remarked. So far I haven't seen any results. But what you taught me today at my grandfather's office proves what I heard about you, and you're not afraid to tell me or anyone else things as they are. And here's something else to learn, Naruto said. There are no shortcuts in life or in accomplishing anything we want to do. But tell me something, are you good at any ninjutsu? I have studied and practiced using chakra, Konohamaru explained, but I haven't gotten the part of henge or anything else down pat yet. Alright then, Naruto suggested. Let's see what we can do about that. You up to it? Yeah, Konohamaru said enthusiastically as he followed Naruto to their next destination. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Hinata left her house and was making her way over to the Hokage Tower to get her ninja ID made. She sighed to herself knowing that she and Naruto wouldn't be on the same team. Part of her wished that Naruto didn't choose to become the dead last on purpose and become one of the regular students so that he might have possibly ended on the same team with her. Soon though her mind drifted off to Hanabi and the issue going on between Hanabi and Naruto. I wonder what Naruto-kun has on Hanabi that she doesn't want me or anyone else to know about, Hinata wondered. She was really serious when she said she didn't want me inquiring of Naruto-kun about it. Is her secret really that embarrassing? Hinata. A voice called out to her. Hinata turned and saw who was approaching her. She mentally sighed, seeing that she was going to have to deal with her new situation now. Sasuke-san. Hinata greeted as the proclaimed Rookie of the Year approached her. Hinata, Sasuke greeted back as stepped and stood beside her. It's good to see you. I didn't think I'd run into you today. Are you busy? I have some business at the Hokage Tito to take care of. Hinata stuttered as meekly as possible, hoping Sasuke would find her too busy to be around. She's cute when she stutters like that, Sasuke thought, though I'll have to think of some methods to help her improve in her speech. You're on your way to have your ninja ID made up? Yes, Sasuke figured. Hinata saw that Sasuke figured her out. Yes, Hinata admitted. Well then, Sasuke suggested, I'm sure we can go together. I was heading there as well to have my ID made up too. I guess there's no avoiding this, Hinata thought. Looks like I'll have to endure this for a while. Hinata resumed her pace to the Hokage Tower with Sasuke walking beside her. It was a quiet stroll until... Hinata, Sasuke asked, were you offended by Naruto's vulgar reference of your bloodline limit? What do you mean? Hinata asked. I mean during the Genin exams, Sasuke elaborated. He referred to your bloodline limit with a warped implication. I know you like hanging around him and all, and he likes pulling pranks, but don't you think that crossed the line? I admit that I was a little annoyed when Naruto-kun was making jokes on me during the Genin exams, as perverted as they were, Hinata said meekly before she defended, but Naruto-kun was cracking jokes on himself during the Genin exams. Also, most of his jokes and insults, in fact, were aimed at himself. Even that kawarimi he pulled was aimed not only to make fun of many of the girls in C-class, but also at himself and imply ing how people use a life-size dummy of himself for their anger management sessions. You interpreted all that from Naruto's jokes during the Genin exams? Sasuke asked incredulously. When you spend time with someone for a good amount of time, Hinata replied, you learn a thing or two. I see, Sasuke remarked. Was interpreting jokes and pranks all Naruto taught you? I learned to see the motives underneath the actions taken, Hinata said. Something I learned from Naruto-kun's actions. Sasuke saw that Hinata was rather devoted to Naruto. He also saw that even when he was aiming to find fault with the blonde Jinchuriki, Hinata found ways to negate and invert whatever he said about him. If you don't mind my asking, Hinata, Sasuke continued, do you believe there's a chance that you and I might end up on different teams? Iruka-sensei did say that you are our class Rookie of the Year, Hinata said. And because my current level of skills isn't currently at your level, I'm sure they'll select someone to fill in that spot. You're the only kunoichi I know of in our whole class who takes things seriously while the rest don't show that same mind frame, Sasuke replied. What's more is that I can't even believe that I'm admitting to fact that Naruto's crude performance during his Genin exams testified to that. The girl's reaction to Naruto was anything but professional. For future kunoichis, it was disgraceful. I often find myself asking if they learn nothing over the years at the Ninja Academy. Regardless of whatever faults you still might have, you've always showed effort and success in correcting them. You're not like those other girls, Hinata. That's one of the reasons why Naruto's idea of you not being part of my team bothers me. I'm flattered by your praises of me, Sasuke-san, Hinata said. It's true that some of our female classmates still have their faults. But I'm confident that in time they'll find ways to fix them. That's time lost, Sasuke replied. They could have followed your example and make the corrections while at the academy, not wait until so much time gone by to do so. Something like that will only drag and slow me and everyone else down. Why, you said yesterday that if we're paired together you'll be sure to help me get stronger and improve, and likewise I could help you as we advance together, right? Hinata asked. Sasuke grinned. I didn't forget what I said. I meant it when I said that to you. Well, Hinata meekly suggested as she started tapping her index fingers together again and again. Why not show that same interest in whoever your new female teammate might be? In that way, she won't a burden in dragging it and slowing you and everyone else down. Sasuke's grin vanished on hearing Hinata's logic and how she used his own words to against him. I don't know how you do it, Hinata, Sasuke remarked. Do what? Hinata asked quizzically. You being able to find ways to invert whatever I say even when I was sure I was right, Sasuke explained. Not that what you said before was wrong, but you have a way of making me see things from a different point of view, particularly your point of view. And you do so without trying to force the point, but instead by using common sense and persuasiveness. That's one of the things I like about you. Hinata was starting to feel nervous, as she was hoping that Sasuke wasn't trying to put the moves on her, so to say. Maybe if I had acted like one of his fangirls, Sasuke wouldn't like me as much. Hinata thought before she tried to visualize herself acting as a Sasuke fangirl rather than as the shy and timid stuttering girl everyone else is used to seeing her as. Her thought bubble burst within less than mere seconds before 45% of the visuals could be completed. That was so wrong I couldn't even picture it. Hinata shuddered with discomfort. Something the matter? Sasuke asked when he caught sight of Hinata shaking for some reason. Oh, nothing, Hinata said. Just an unwholesome thought that popped into my head just now. It left a rather unpleasant aftertaste. You have those too, Sasuke remarked, surprising. I'm human, Hinata replied. It happens. Be that as it may, Sasuke continued before shooting her a grin. But for you, I'll make an exception. Sasuke was enjoying his time with Hinata, and for once, without Naruto being there to intervene or put a fork in his endeavors. If you're so interested in Hinata, why don't you go ask her your questions yourself? Those were Hanabi's words to him some time ago. Though he was annoyed at how Hinata's younger sister brushed him off in refusing to answer his questions about Hinata, he soon thought that perhaps taking that approach would be a better idea after all. Hinata, Sasuke asked, besides practicing your clan's jukin and training to improve, is there any hobby of some sort you like to do? I know you like doing things with Naruto, but what do you like to do when Naruto isn't around you? Hinata looked back at Sasuke and wondered if he was seriously asking her about her interests and hobbies. She replied as timid as possible. And nothing special, really. My personal hobbies surely couldn't be of any interest to you. I mean, well, you don't have to be embarrassed about them in front of me, Hinata, Sasuke assured. Feel free to speak freely about them with me. Hinata sighed lowly to herself. As she was about to reply, Sasuke-kun, a feminine voice called out happily. Not her, Sasuke grumbled mentally. Not now. Ino came and tackled Sasuke from behind as she wrapped her arms around him. Sasuke-kun, Ino said with a happy tone. I'm so happy to see you. I so totally missed you. Ino turned and saw Hinata standing there looking at her. Ino-san. Hinata greeting politely with a bow. Hey Hinata, Ino greeted mischievously. Why are you hanging around with my Sasuke-kun? Aren't you supposed to be with your significant other right now? Hinata blushed hotly on hearing how Ino referred to her as Naruto's significant other. The very thought excited the young Hyuga heiress. Do I really give the impression of being Naruto-kun's significant other? Hinata thought eagerly. Sasuke, however, was less than happy on hearing such a statement while seeing Hinata's reaction to it as he removed Ino off him. Ino, Sasuke said with a tone that showed that he wasn't happy with her actions just now. Why are you here? Just as she was about to reply, Sasuke-kun, Sakura called out as she raced over to him. Sasuke groaned on seeing her coming their way now. Just great, Sasuke grunted unhappily as Sakura joined them, another source of annoyance. Hey, forehead girl, Ino greeted mockingly. Don't you have a library to spend your free time at? Only if Sasuke-kun is willing to tag along, Sakura replied flirtatiously. Not happening, Ino retorted. I was here first, so I got dibs on him. Now get lost. Make me, Sakura challenged. I don't make garbage, Ino retorted. What was that? Sakura shot back before both girls started growling angrily at each other. Sasuke sighed before turning to Hinata, only to find that she was gone. Thanks a lot, Sasuke said while trying to control his own anger at them. I was enjoying some wholesome company and conversation until you two came and messed up everything. You scared Hinata off because of your stupidity. Sasuke hurried off to catch up with Hinata. Sakura and Ino turned to each other with a look of daggers. This is all your fault, Ino pig, Sakura yelled. My fault, Ino retorted. It was you he blamed, stupid. Ino ran off to chase after Sasuke with Sakura in pursuit not too far behind. Meanwhile, in another part of Konoha. Damn kid. Naruto remarked. Your execution of Henge is atrocious. What Naruto was looking at was a fattened and disfigured version of a young pretty woman that Konohamaru attempted to change into. Konohamaru failed miserably to execute Henge in spite of his best efforts. But on the plus side, you got her clothes coloring correct, Naruto added before sensing bloodlust being aimed at him. Are you saying that looks like me? The woman said darkly before she threw a punch at Naruto from behind. Naruto sidestepped her as her fist flew right past him. Physically speaking, no. Naruto replied before he pointed to the still transformed Konohamaru and mocked. But your violent behavior certainly reflects the ugliness quite accurately. Why you? The woman screeched as she chased after Naruto, who screamed and ran from her. Boss! Konohamaru yelled worriedly as he changed back and ran after them. A couple of seconds later, Konohamaru was pulled behind a dumpster as the running pair turned the corner and disappeared from his sight. That ought to keep her busy for a while. Naruto grinned mischievously with Konohamaru looking at him with awe while trying to make sense of what just happened. Huh? But how? Konohamaru asked with a perplexed expression. You are just being chased by that dash. Things aren't always as they seem, Konohamaru. Naruto interjected. Don't always believe what your eyes see. Deception is just one of the many tools we ninjas use all the time. But if you're here, Konohamaru asked, then who is she chasing? Akagebushin, Naruto said. I made one appear behind this dumpster and switched with it faster than either you or woman could see. It'll be a while before she realizes that she got duped. You're so cool, boss, Konohamaru praised. Much better than Ebisu-sensei. You just gotta teach me your secrets and how to be just as cool as you. Everything takes time, Konohamaru, Naruto said. And it won't happen overnight either. But let's do something else. There's a jutsu I created that I like to teach you. Really? Konohamaru asked. What kind of jutsu? A really strong one that can knock out males effectively. Naruto explained as he led the younger boy out of the alley and over to their next destination that was a couple of blocks away from where they were. I usually would come here for my extensive research when I have the time to, Naruto said with a perverted smile. The resourceful specimens I find here have proven to be most beneficial. What kind of research could you possibly get done here at the women's bathhouse? Konohamaru asked with a confused look. Research that helped me in improving my jutsu that I created and sharpening my sexual incentives, Naruto explained. That's one of many instruments we ninjas also use to our advantage against unsuspecting targets, whether they're male or female. How do you sharpen your sexual incentives? By looking at a bunch of naked girls and women, Konohamaru asked. Because Konohamaru, Naruto replied mischievously. Girls talk. I don't get it, Konohamaru said with a dumbfounded expression. So, what's so if they talk? Don't we talk, as we're doing now? That's not the kind of talk I'm referring to. Naruto sighed. Let me explain to you in a way you can understand. But tell me, how much about girls do you know? Not much really, Konohamaru admitted, except that I've seen some that looked really cute and pretty. I never kissed one either, though sometimes they smell nice. Naruto caught the blush that appeared on Konohamaru's cheeks after making that last comment. Well, Naruto said, what you told me so far is a good start. Come, let me teach you some things about them as we go elsewhere for you to practice that jutsu I'll soon teach you. 2 hours later, at the Hokage Tower, Hinata was relieved that after a long wait, she finally got her ninja ID made up. She didn't think the wait would take that long, even though there were others in her class waiting for their IDs to be made ahead of her. I wonder what Naruto-kun is up to, Hinata wondered. Hinata looked up and down the hallway to see Hiruzen coming from the opposite end with a troubled and irritated expression. From what she saw, he was grumbling something she couldn't completely make up except for a few words which were, absurd harem no jutsu. Why do I sense that somehow Naruto-kun is involved in Sandaime-sama's current displeasure? Hinata thought as Hiruzen got closer to her.
Hokage-sama, Hinata good.
Hiruzen snapped out of his train of thoughts and looked to see Hinata looking up at him. Oh, Hinata, Hiruzen smiled and greeted. I take it that your ID was processed and developed. It was, Hinata confirmed, though it was a long wait. By the way, have you seen Naruto-kun? More than I wanted to today, considering the trouble and grief he and my grandson gave, and will give me in the future, Hiruzen thought, and that harem no jutsu that overwhelmed Ebisu is something I better keep on guard against, otherwise Naruto will catch me. He placed his thoughts in the back of his mind and answered. He was here earlier to get his ID made also. Both he and my grandson, Konohamaru, had gone hanging out together someplace. I guess I'll have to go find him then, Hinata figured before bowing and dismissing herself quickly. Just as Hinata turned the corner to leave, a door in front of Hiruzen opened and Sasuke came out of the room through the door. The Uchiha looked and saw the Hokage standing before him. Sandaime-sama, Sasuke acknowledged. Hinata was here a while ago? Have you seen her? She left not too long ago, Hiruzen said. Something about meeting up with somebody. Sasuke sighed before asking, Sandaime-sama, if I may ask. Yes, Hiruzen encouraged. What are the chances of Hinata and I being paired together on the same team? Sasuke asked. Why do you ask? Hiruzen inquired. Naruto said that he was sure neither he nor myself would end up being paired with Hinata in a Genin Cell team, Sasuke explained. I wanted to know how true that was, and if there's a likelihood that Hinata could be on my team. Hiruzen was no fool. He was very well aware of the ongoing heated tension between Naruto and Sasuke for Hinata's affections that had been going on for a long time now. Why do you seek having Hyuga Hinata being placed on your team? Hiruzen asked. Is there an ulterior motive behind your asking me these questions? Sasuke answered. I find that I have the capacity to work better with Hinata, and I'm certain I can help her grow and become stronger if given the chance. She isn't like the other shallow girls in class I have to put up with, and unlike them, Hinata takes her role as a ninja seriously. She possesses other admirable qualities, and her bloodline limit teamed with my yet-to-be-awakened Sharingan would make a rather formidable team. Hiruzen stayed silent momentarily as he thought about and analyzed Sasuke's words. Sasuke saw that the Hokage gave him no emotional expression or response to his speech. After another minute of quietly meditating on Sasuke's words, Hiruzen broke the silence. Here's something you must understand about the pairings of the three-person Genin Cell, Sasuke, Hiruzen explained. The pairing of the three-person Genin teams is based on the students' physical, academic, strategic, cunning, and complementary talents essential for them as future shinobis. All of this is required to keep the power balance and dynamics of the team firm and stabilized, as each team will be specialized in their role as future Konoha ninjas. What's also important to keep in mind is that playing favorites when deciding the formations of the Genin Cell teams is both prohibited and dangerous, because mismatched pairings can weaken the team's overall dynamics, and that can lead to the deaths of the entire team altogether. You believe that a Genin team consisting of the Byakugan and Sharingan would be a formidable team. Sorry to say, Sasuke, but such a team wouldn't work, as both bloodline limits are too different in their attributes, and they do not complement each other's abilities. Sasuke grunted lowly, but he didn't dare show any open form of disrespect to Sandaime, especially after recalling what Iruka told him and the others the other day about being able to be subjected to receiving punishment directly from the Hokage himself now that they were official ninjas of Konoha. I understand, Sandaime-sama. Sasuke replied with a short bow before turning and leaving the Hokage tower. As Sasuke was leaving, he was forced to wonder if somehow Naruto had long knew what Hiruzen had explained, and if that was the reason why he was sure that neither he nor Sasuke would be paired with Hinata. Either way, hearing from the Hokage's own lips that the pairing of the Byakugan and Sharingan wouldn't work due to their too big of differences in their attributes silenced any argument Sasuke could have tried to use to convince Hiruzen to let Hinata become his Genin teammate. It went without say that Sasuke was far less than happy that Naruto was right in the end. What made things worse was that Sasuke would have to swallow his pride and own up to the fact that Naruto knew this beforehand. All the while, Hinata was leaping from roof to roof, making a fast pace to Naruto's apartment. While on her way, she wondered what that harem no jutsu was all about that Hiruzen grumbled under his breath, and if somehow her boyfriend was involved in it. She would have to go straight to the horse's mouth to find out, she figured as she continued on her way. After a good amount of time, Hinata arrived at her destination. Landing down on the roof, descended down the wall to the surface, and made her way to the main entrance. Reaching the second floor, Hinata knocked on the door and waited for a response. When she got none, she pulled out a key and used it to open the door to his apartment. No one, not even the Hokage, knew about the spare key Hinata possessed that Naruto gave her. Stepping into his apartment, Hinata closed and locked the door before removing her sandals and jacket and placing her jacket on a nearby hook by the door and going into the living room. It almost feels like I live here, Hinata thought after thinking about how she entered her boyfriend's apartment. It wasn't too long ago when Naruto made and gave her a spare key. He told her that she was free to come and stop by whenever she wanted, but he asked her not to tell anyone about the key he gave her, not that she was planning on doing so anyway. As she looked around, she found that Naruto stayed true to his word in always making sure his place stayed clean whenever she came by. She made her way to his kitchen and decided to have some fresh tea and other refreshments kept in his refrigerator. 20 minutes later, a sound of a door lock being opened was heard, and the apartment door opened. The Hyuga heiress looked to see Naruto step in and close the door and lock it. He removed his sandal and set them aside before noticing Hinata's sandals by the door.
Naruto-kun, Hinata velte.
Naruto looked and found Hinata sitting on his sofa, with a cup of tea in her hand and a few cinnamon rolls on a plate resting on the table in front of the sofa, with a tea kettle sitting next to the plate. Hinata-chan, Naruto greeted. What brings you here? I didn't feel like going home yet, so I came by here to be with you for a while, Hinata replied. Naruto removed his orange jacket and placed it on another hook on the wall by the entrance, next to Hinata's jacket. He then went over to Hinata and sat next to her. Reaching for one of the cinnamon rolls, he took and bit into it. Harem no jutsu, Hinata mentioned, and spending time with Konohamaru while causing trouble? Hearing that caused Naruto to partly choke on the cinnamon roll he was chewing. How did you find out about that? Naruto asked, a little surprised. I have my sources, Hinata teased. Don't think you can hide everything from me, Naruto-kun. Like you said, I have Byakugan. Naruto laughed as he wrapped his right arm around his girlfriend. Apparently, I can't hide everything from you, Naruto said. What does that jutsu entails? Hinata asked. It's an upgraded version of my jutsu, Naruto explained. I combined Oiroke no Jutsu with Kagebushin and ambush unsuspecting perverts with it. Oiroke no Jutsu, harem version. Konohamaru's sensei fell for it easily after his hypocritical speech of gentleman behavior. Konohamaru has potential to be a great ninja someday. He just needs to be trained and taught the right things, although he proclaimed me as his rival for the title Hokage. But other than that, how was your day? Adventurous, Hinata replied critically. Niji still hates me despite my best efforts to make peace with him after what happened to his father. He blames me and the main house for how things in his life turned out, but he focuses all of that hatred and anger on me for something that was never my fault. I can relate, Naruto empathized. Hinata sank deeper into his embrace. The night before, his teammate Lee got drunk with sake falling into his food by accident, and from what I was told, Lee turned into a natural-born Suiken fighter. Niji said it took both him and Guy to subdue Lee without hurting him, though they got roughed up themselves. A Suiken fighter? Huh. Naruto thought as the gears in his head started turning with ideas for plan formulating. I'll definitely look into this. Hinata went on to relate the rest of her day to Naruto. The blonde was snickering when Hinata told him how she used the momentary distraction caused by Ino and Sakura's bickering for Sasuke's attention to quietly leave and get away from them briefly before they caught up to her at the Hokage Tower to get their ninja IDs made. And that was pretty much my day, Hinata concluded. Coming and being here was the only best part of it. That was quite a tale you shared with me, Hinata-chan, Naruto said before he turned and lied down on the sofa with his head resting on Hinata's lap. I have a long one for you, and it goes back to yesterday after I departed from you, Hanabi and your father. Really? Hinata inquired as she started running her fingers through his hair with right hand while her left hand rested on his chest. What happened? While in the position they were in, Naruto related everything to Hinata, From the time he bought and read the book, The Gutsy Ninja, to stealing the Forbidden Scroll, to staging Mizuki to expose himself as the traitor, to confronting Sandaime about the truth concerning his parents and backgrounds, to additional information he found out from Sandaime earlier today about his clan's ties to Konoha, to what happened between him, Konohamaru, and Ebisu. Hinata was left utterly speechless after hearing everything Naruto told her about his parents and once renowned clan. Clearly, Sasuke wasn't the only person who lost his clan, Hinata acknowledged while caressing Naruto's head, which was still resting on her lap. Your father was the Yondaime himself. I always wondered why you looked so much like our late Hokage. We all have seen his pictures in books many times, but none of us ever made the connections. Who would, after the life I was forced to live as the village's scorned pariah? Naruto remarked. I wouldn't have thought so myself either, unless he were to appear out of nowhere and tell me himself. I sure would have had some choice words for him after punching him in the gut for this burden he forced on me. But Jazan explained that in their final moments they gave and sacrificed themselves to protect me from Kurama's rage. But my father's final wish for me to be seen as the hero wasn't honored, and my clan's legacy has been forgotten and forsaken by Konoha. It's sad that Konoha failed to acknowledge your parents' sacrifice and your clan's loss after all that your clan and Yondaime have for them. Hinata replied, even now. You acknowledged and opened your heart to me. Naruto replied, you saved me from my darkness and lonely existence. Your father later acknowledged me, and so did my little nighttime firecracker. Hanabi you mean, Hinata remarked. Same difference, Naruto grinned. In time, all of Konohagakure no Sato will respect and acknowledge both me and my new clan. It'll be a clan like no other with me as both its clan leader and Hokage. You can't be a clan by yourself, Naruto-kun, Hinata said. If there's one thing life has taught me through all of my trials and hardships, my moons, I spring rabbit, it's patience, Naruto said. And all good things take time with hard work and true effort, and I certainly can't do this alone. My significant other. Isn't that how Ino addressed you earlier today? Are you proposing to me? Hinata asked teasingly, though deep down she was truly hoping what she was implying through her question was true. We came this far together, and we will fulfill our goals together, Naruto replied. Uzumaki and Hyuga united and working as one. There was a moment of silence between the two teens as they looked into each other's eyes, as though they were reading each other's souls. You're the best thing that happened to me, Naruto-kun, Hinata said softly. I don't know how my life would have turned out if you didn't save me from those bullies all those years ago. You acknowledged and opened your heart to me and saved me from my own darkness and loneliness. You helped me become stronger, smarter, and more confident in myself and in my abilities. That's why I'm not afraid of going through trials or great lengthens for you and with you. Naruto saw that his girlfriend paused momentarily. Hinata then gave Naruto her most affectionate smile. Because I love you. It was now Naruto's turn to be looked shocked and surprised with his heart racing. Sure, he always knew Hinata deeply liked him, and he grew to like and care deeply for Hinata as well over the years. But this was the first time in his entire life that someone has ever told him that he was loved. He couldn't remember the last time he felt so happy. His girlfriend loved him, and for Naruto, who in the past had always been starving for affection and acknowledgement, hearing those 3 words meant everything to him. Do you really mean that? Naruto asked. With all my heart, Hinata replied. Naruto allowed everything to sink in, and as he thought more about it, he knew in his heart he felt the same for Hinata. I love you too, Hyuga Hinata, Naruto said affectionately with a sincere smile. The Hyuga heiress smiled happily as joyful tears fell down her face. She soon leaned down and kissed Naruto. The Jinchuriki returned the kiss as he moved his arms around her to embrace her, with their kiss deepening. Hinata too embraced and kissed Naruto back just as hotly, if not more, as both teens were now in their own world they shared. The next day, everyone was back at the academy. Today was the day they would be assigned their teams and Jounin senseis. Many of the girls were gossiping with hopes of being paired with Sasuke and having a romantic relationship blossom with him with the many missions and adventures they would have with him. Some of the boys ignored them, Sasuke, especially as he sat alone at his desk with his chin resting on his hands while his arms held his head up on the desk. You believe that a genin team consisting of the Byakugan and Sharingan would be a formidable team. Sorry to say, Sasuke, but such a team wouldn't work as both bloodline limits are too different in their attributes and they do not complement each other's abilities. Too different, he says. Sasuke contemplated. He wasn't even willing to give such a formation a chance to test out if his theory was true. Just then, Naruto and Hinata walked in together into the class, but with one significant difference this time. Unlike how they would enter the classroom hand in hand, Naruto now had his right arm wrapped around her waist, holding her close to him with her head resting on his right shoulder with her left arm wrapped around his waist, in a mannerism that an official couple would walk together. This didn't go unnoticed by the others either. "Hinata," Sasuke whispered under his breath as he looked at the young girl, feeling that should have been him in Naruto's spot with Hinata in his arms. "Let her go, Sasuke," a voice said from behind. Sasuke turned to see Shikamaru standing behind him with his hands in his pants pockets. She clearly made up her mind. Shikamaru continued, "A long time ago, in fact. You're not the one she wants, and she's clearly happy being with Naruto, and Naruto is genuinely happy being with her too. And seeing you trying to rival Naruto for her and failing to win her over has proven to be truly troublesome for me to watch for the past 3 years. If you really like her, you'd let her go and let her be happy with who she wants." Sasuke grunted and gave Shikamaru no reply as he turned away from the Nara heir. "She never led you on, Sasuke," Shikamaru stated. "She never showed any form of interest in you as you have in her, and she has always been seen together with Naruto. Frankly, all of us, including your fangirls, saw this coming and none of us are surprised to see them together like this." "Are you done?" Sasuke asked coldly. "You may not want to hear what I'm saying, let alone how bluntly I'm saying it," Shikamaru replied, "but you got to, and for your own good. It's best to let go of whatever feelings you have for Hinata and move on to someone else. Accept it, Hyuga Hinata doesn't like you." "Go away," Sasuke replied. "You're proving to be a real thorn to my side right now. I have neither the time nor desire to listen to you any further." "What troublesome spectacle you've become," Shikamaru mocked, the rookie of the year brooding over the fact that he couldn't steal the dead last's girlfriend after 3 years. Sasuke growled and started seething bloodlust at Shikamaru before the Narayer shrugged and walked off, having finished saying what he felt he had to say. Sasuke turned back around to face the front of the class with his fists clenched tightly on top of his desk. "This isn't fair," Sasuke thought. "The one girl I truly like and want chooses to be with the dobe. What could she see in him? He's an infamous troublemaker, does poorly in class with the lowest grades, and is a shameless open pervert, and he even peeps in women's bathhouses. So why, in spite of all this, why does she still like him and not me? I don't understand." Seeing Naruto and Hinata together romantically along with Shikamaru's brief words to him left Sasuke in a state of anger, jealousy, and confusion. What will become of this? Will Sasuke take Shikamaru's advice and let go of his feelings for Hinata and move on? What will happen after the genin teams are made, and what new trials await them? Find out next time. Thanks for watching The Wildest What If. What if Naruto had a sealed legacy part 1? By Fiction no Jutsu. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And the link the author was in description, support him too.